All right. What's up, everybody? How you doing out there? Welcome back to the show. This is last week's fights. My name is Thinker St. James, and tonight we are going over each and every fight from UFC Fight Night, Allen versus Costa, also reviewing MVP MMA 1, Rousey versus Carano. To do all of that with me, as always, you know him, you love him. He's the man, he's the myth, he's the legend, he's the Ohio player, Mr. Chase Parton. How are you, brother?
I'm good. It's obviously a Monday night. We had fights. We had other interesting antics as well. And yeah, we get to talk about those from Saturday. So I'm really excited and I'm just happy to be here once again. Thank you, Thinker.
Absolutely. I am also glad to be here, glad to talk about these fights. Of course, we do have an off week from the UFC coming up, so we are not going to be giving our predictions for the next card. As you know, next episode of this show will be a this week's fights. We will give all of our predictions in depth on that card, break them down piece by piece for you, and dig a little deeper than we normally do when we do our predictions on the episodes where we have previous cards to review. So you get a little bit more out of the next episode of the show.
No, absolutely. And if anybody recalls, and this is why I'm excited for it, the last time that we had a full episode to break down the fights, I got all the picks right, guys. It's
I
been a
mean,
long time coming. So
can
it,
he replicate people? This is this is what we or could I? I mean, this would be an amazing thing, right? We'll have to see. I don't even know how our numbers went for this week. Of course, I was watching the MVP card live, so I had to do a rewatch of the fight night here, the UFC card. A little bit of a different vibe for all of this, so a little bit of a shift of everything. Still got it all in. It's gonna be interesting to talk about all of this.
I'm actually glad you brought it up. It's not just me who got them all right. I even said it the episode after. I credit the discussion, the dialogue, the teamwork, the collaborative effort to be able to formulate the best plays on that night. And I think it is very well possible that this week, this next coming week, Thinker is going to be the one to get a flawless card on this. I'm excited.
I mean, I've got the shoes on standby to chow down upon if that happens, but we will see. All will be revealed. But of course, come by again next week for all of the predictions. This week, we of course are talking about UFC Fight Night, Allen versus Costa, and I think that we should just start off with this. I get it depends on how you look at it. Was this a triumph of MMA? Was this a spectacle? I don't know. You tell me. But this is, of course, MVP's MMA 1. This is the first MMA card on Netflix. Rousey versus Carano, the three main event card, as they were calling it. Rousey versus Carano being one of three. Diaz Perry and Ganu and Lins being the other two. So Chase, we talked a little before the stream. You said you watched some of this. You didn't watch it live. What was the breakdown of all this on your side?
Funny enough, I think it's actually one of the more interesting things that has ever happened because while the UFC was going on and there was a whole community of people who said, okay, this is not my UFC card to watch. I'm going to watch the Netflix, event. And not to say that was you, I obviously know to dedicate the entire stream to one event. That's the, that's the art, but when you watch the UFC event, it's funny enough that if you had the Netflix event on, every time the fights ended, they walked out and had a fight. Every time the fight ended, they walked out and had a fight. It was actually almost so I got to catch the entire main card because it ended, before the last two fights had even started. So I got to catch a good deal of it just by playing it by ear. Just hanging
Sure.
around.
And I mean, that I'm glad that that worked out that way for people who did it like that. I think that that's awesome that that broke down like that. If you only dedicated your viewing to this MVP card, the pacing was one of the most major glaring details that was a problem to me. One of the major criticisms here. This was paced very much like all of the boxing events that are going on now. Mostly, a lot of these with Jake Paul, of course, and MVP being his promotion, a lot of the same structure with that. And that is tremendously shitty when it comes to the viewing experience. To wait almost an hour between fights is just unacceptable. And I really don't like the boxing pacing to begin with. Like, I am a huge hater when they have like musical acts and all of this. They're turning into like a festival atmosphere. They didn't do that with this card, thankfully. But I could see if they continue down this road, that being the type of thing that happens. And just off rip, this makes for a tremendously poor viewing experience when you finally get onto the main card.
Yeah, I heard a lot of stuff being talked about aerial. So was there a lot of aerial talk in between these fights? Is that what was going on?
There was, I mean, that was one of those things that like they had like a rotating cast of different people they were bringing on to commentary. They had Kat Zingano on commentary for a little while, like just talking about having fought both Carano and Rousey and different, John Jones made a brief appearance during the Ngannou fight. It was stuff like that. They were just kind of like ushering different people in, trying to keep this interesting. But the thing that is interesting is the fights. So give us the fights.
Fair, and all other things aside about the promotion, I'm actually looking at this fight card and the fights that I missed, and I'm
Yes.
looking at some of these names and I'm recognizing some of these faces, and I'm actually really excited to break down some of these things because the one thing that I will say is about this card, the names at the top, of course, your Rousey, your Mike Perry's, your Nate's, your Francis, yada yada yada. I would say those are decently handpicked just to get the casual fans, to watch. But when it comes to people like Robellis, right? It's kind of a deep pull, for them to like they know that that's a real dog. What the hell am I thinking? I'm not a real dog in the fight, but like when it comes to like MMA,
It's like
who
a deeper knowledge you have to know Rebellis. Yeah.
yes, yeah, thank you. Yes, and when they poach somebody from Karate Combat, of course, and of course Eileen Pereira is somebody as well. It kind of shows if they pay these people at Karate Combat, they can see who their best stars are. And credit to Karate Combat, they're building stars big enough that Netflix is wanting to have them on their card, and they would actually pay them. It looks like so they just jumped right over here. They had no issue with it. Obviously, they can go back, but
Well, see, this is actually, again, we'll get into the actual fights here in just a second, but what you just said kind of really touches on one of the major points that I have about this card and why I thought it was unfortunately more circus than quality is because the main card, aside maybe from Diaz and Perry, but the rest of the main card really felt like you had once it was going to be one-sided kind of handpicked, layup of a fight, and it certainly turned out to be that way for a lot of that. But really what I heard from a lot of people was they valued names over quality when it came to these fights, and like that's where the undercard should have shown. And I kind of agree with that. I think that they tried to get some decent stuff going on the undercard to maybe make it seem like that wasn't the case. But what you ended up with is not necessarily an undercard that screams, "Oh, I need to make sure I watch the next MVP card," even if main card didn't have like a lot of like fireworks action and it kind of went the way that I thought it was going to go. Maybe they're going to keep doing those deeper pulls, like and have like a filled out undercard that really like compels me to watch. I don't think they necessarily accomplished that with who they did end up getting, even though some of these fighters are not bad. I mean, like this, there are some decent names on here. There were a couple of decent performances in some competitive fights, but overall, I think that that was really where it was lacking because they were saying, "Oh, it's like you can't always. You're definitely not going to get Rousey or Carano again, of course. Not that you even should want that, but like." Ngannou, who are you going to pair him up against with? Diaz and Perry, you could probably make something out of at least Mike Perry, but Nate Diaz definitely his stock is gone at this point. Robellis is one that maybe has some intriguing stuff, but again, you have to pair all of that with like up and comers to make that a complete package to sell this to the broader public, and that might have been the biggest like problem that they had.
I think another thing, well, to add to my point about them being able to pull some of the names that you would not really think are like as big, you as an MMA fan, you would know these names, and they're not the biggest names in the sport to you. But the fact that MVP's promotion kind of pulled some of these diehard cult classic kind of fighters, I would say, like Moraes, right? Adriano, like that was a pretty good pull. That was a good one. He was supposed to fight
Yeah.
Makayev, I believe, and that wasn't the case. But another one that I think is a really good one, the Jason Jackson guy. The guy who literally knocked out Amosov, he's now a beast in the UFC. Like having somebody like that, it's like it's adding credibility to the MVP promotions. And that was the main thing that I said. Is like whatever you want to say about the main card, whether it's going to be typical Jake Paul promotion stuff kind of deal, the undercard to build validity while you're watching it, you have to actually see competent fighters and you have to see decent fights. And then I'm looking at the fucking picture. Did Jason Jackson fight the car salesman from The Ultimate fighter, brother.
You remember too. Yes, he did. Oh my goodness. This was something that I mean, I loved to see our dude Jeff over here, Jeff Crichton from The Ultimate Fighter. I was like, oh, our used car salesman is back. The dude who is living out the camper. And unfortunately, he got starched very badly.
Well, but my thing, what a fucking opportunity. What an opportunity for a guy who did not get into the UFC. He was just on Netflix, brother. I mean, he may have got knocked down, but before the fight started, he was on Netflix and people were out there rooting,
Well,
kind of deal.
and going back to your original point, like, yes, I thought like coming into this is actually one of the reasons I wanted to watch this card. Of course, the community voted and we, watched this card because of that. So that was the main impetus. But I did want to watch this card for exactly what you had said. I thought that there were some decent pulls on here. Namo Faisal. On this card, the Kurdish guy who was doing decently in karate combat had a good amount of hype because of representing Kurdistan. Like a couple of these names are decent names. I don't think that the level of the actual fights ended up being enough to make the names as valuable as just that. And then when you pair that with the layups on the main card, it was just, I think, an underwhelming product in total, even though it didn't have to be.
See, and that's the other problem. You call them layups, and yes, we'll definitely talk about the main layups here in just a second. But the last point that I would like to make is like, in MMA, supposedly anything is possible kind of deal. It's the most unexpected sport in the world, kind of whatever you want to say. But when the fights are on paper one-sided and then they play out one-sided, that's just you just can't have that rolling down the line. One time it's like, oh, we got to see Francis. He's the guy who does it. He did it. Over Bellis, he does it. Nate Diaz gets a bloody fit. These are typical things that you would expect, but like you can't roll that into a second event and just keep having Robellis knock out 45-year-old fucking people in the first round. Like I
No,
don't know.
that's exactly the point. Exactly to a T. Exactly it. So let's get into the card
Yes,
here. Before we do, of course, let's shout out the chat real quick. Hydra is here. Thank you for being here, Hydra. Mank is here. What up, Mank? Sam is here. Appreciate you as well, Johnny, the God, and Didgery Dave. Appreciate all you guys being here early. Thank you very much for rocking with your boys.
absolutely. You guys are the best.
Absolutely, indeed. So, starting this thing off, did want to also give a shout out to Chris CJ Avila, the Panda. He is the homie. He is a friend of the channel. And unfortunately, he did not win against Brendan Jenkins, who is also someone who I have met. I saw Brendan Jenkins fight and win at Gamebred Bare Knuckle MMA 5 in Orlando. He was very cool. He was out in the crowd, interacting with the fans and stuff. Really nice guy. Glad to see him win. But of course, the Panda not getting the job done. That was unfortunate, although it was a split decision. So I thought that with this first fight started off somewhat decent. The level of the fight, we're not talking about like crazy fireworks, but it was competitive. And I was like, between that and the second fight on the card, okay, we've got competitive fights here. Like this is setting a good precedent, and then that's where it started to dip a little bit after that, I thought. So good start off fight, I thought, between Jenkins and Avila. The Pereira and Masan Wong fight was weird to me. This was one of those ones where it was a 30-27 on two judges' scorecards for opposite people. This should be something.
Classic.
Yeah, classic. This should be something that is concerning when, we're going forward into some of these other things. I was on the Jade Masan Wong side. I thought that she did really well in this fight. I thought Pereira, it seemed like she was maybe getting layups in karate combat because she looked really out of sorts in MMA. I don't know. Like, I mean, this was like a striking affair. This was not necessarily like that they were going to the ground a whole bunch, but like she just wasn't moving very like solidly. I thought that she moved very slow. Her striking was slow as well. I thought Masan Wong, being the smaller fighter, like was pretty nimble and using her footwork well. She's a bare knuckle boxer, so she has a lot of experience in the striking department and with footwork. And I thought she used all of her skills really well. I thought she won the fight pretty handily. Did not go her way. It went for Pereira. Was this at the point that you ended up watching any of this stuff, or were you on the main card?
No, yeah, no, you are good to keep going. What I will
Okay,
say about that one specifically is that Alex was at the event,
he was.
and I figured, obviously, in the corner of his sister, but I figured, or maybe we had talked about it on my stream separately. Like I figured that the UFC was going to be like a no for the fighters to go like be there kind of deal, but evidently not. My thing was like Bisping wasn't at Power Slap. I was like, oh, he's definitely going to Netflix, and people were like, no, 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 no. Now, obviously, he can't go there. He's a UFC guy, But Alex was there, and what the fuck's the problem?
Yeah, no, there were a couple of UFC fighters at this event actually. I think that when it comes to these other promotions, there's a little bit of a misconception with that. I don't think that the UFC is concerned about their fighters or their name being utilized in any other promotion when it's not something they consider a threat, which I don't think that they were considering this much of a threat. Even if it drew a couple of eyes away from a fight night, which on paper was not that great. Of course, we'll talk about the quality level of that fight night coming up because I'd say that it certainly over delivered. But I think because like they were referencing the UFC a whole bunch. They even had on the graphics Nate Diaz as one of the founders of the BMF belt, which I was like, he wasn't necessarily a founder of the belt. He fought for the belt that the promotion made, but you know what I mean? It was a little bit weird. But the point is that like I don't think the UFC cares all that much when like their name is thrown around or their fighters are around in other promotions if it's not something that they think is like directly impacting their business.
But I think that's interesting to note is like because you're saying that they didn't view them as a threat, but as we when we looked ahead at this card, it was obvious that they pulled a lot of the fighters that maybe didn't have that much buzz and put them on one card together. So in a sense, they did have to shift around this event to make theirs more feasible for people who are going to go to another event and they want to catch different fighters on a different week, kind of deal. But I don't know. The UFC has that luxury. They have plenty of people that they can keep shuffling in. They don't have to settle in for competing with other events because they got plenty of Cody Brundages. He
And
can
that, and
go
that
always.
was that was going to be one of my major points about like this event in general because people were saying, "Oh, the quality of these fights should have been, all these hot prospects. It should have been them, picking some of these up and comers that are going to really sell this promotion going forward." And I'm like, where do you think they are getting those people from? I mean, if the UFC doesn't already have them directly wanting to get into the contender series, I mean, like, there's already PFL out there, maybe scouting a couple of people trying to have some homegrown stuff going on their side of the world. Like, the other thing, like you said, the UFC has the luxury of being the thing that the fighters want to go to. That's
Mhm.
I don't think people are factoring that in enough. Like it's not only the UFC scouting these people and making them like their property, so to speak. And I know that's a little bit crass, but it kind of becomes that after a certain point. But like it's also a handshake agreement with these fighters. It's like the UFC will go and pick some of these new guys that they think are going to be the stars of the future, and then the new guys who want to be stars of the future already know that that's where they want to go. So it's a hard world out here for any of these other kind of promotions, and that's another reason why I at least wanted to get eyes on this thing to see what it was going to look like in the big picture and what they were able to accomplish with the dynamics being as such.
Yes, but sorry about the sidetrack.
No, of
Continue
course.
on. So next fight, Albert Morales and David Mogoyan.
Not much to talk about here. Magoyan is an Arman Sarukian guy. He ended up winning the fight pretty decisively. Really, not too much. This was kind of just a little bit of a filler fight in my estimation. Plus, Magoyan being an Arman guy, I wasn't really too enthused.
Yeah, 9-1 versus 19-11. I mean, it's just how it is. But
Yeah, for sure. The next one though is definitely we kind of touched on it a little bit, but this is one that was more entertaining, even though it was very short. Jason Jackson, as you said, Amasov's last nemesis there that was in Bellator.
mhm.
And then of course Jeff Crichton, who was on the Ultimate Fighter. We watched his entire Ultimate Fighter season. We all got to know Jeff and his great relationship with his wife and all of that. And Jeff got instantly starched. He got one punch knocked out. It was real bad, real unfortunate.
Yeah, no, that's gosh, it makes you when you see something like that, it's crazy what a highlight can do for somebody. Because Jason Jackson, when you look at his record, he has a lot of decisions. He knocked out Amosov, big deal. Good time. He's a Bellator guy. It takes him to come on Netflix and knock out Jeff Creighton for be like, holy shit, he kind of needs to be in the UFC. Where has he been? Why have we not been scouting this guy? I mean, come on now, like,
Well, yeah, and I mean, we'll talk in two fights up about a development with the UFC, and like Jason Jackson might end up potentially having that happen if he really wants it. Is he in PFL now? Was that where he resides generally, or is he just kind of a floater, free
that
agent
I am
type?
not positive of. Yeah,
Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see about that, but don't be surprised if you see some of these names ending up in the UFC because they were watching. The UFC is always watching.
true.
So okay, this fight here, the Adriano Moraes and Fumi and Kuta fight, there was a little bit of controversy at the end of this thing. It was a good fight. I thought this was one of the better scraps on here. And Kuta coming in as the replacement for Mikhaev, as you had said, short notice for this guy. I thought he did pretty well on short notice. But
Against what this dude who went fucking who beat didn't he beat fucking,
Mighty Mouse,
Demetrius
yeah,
Johnson?
he
Yeah, like,
did,
Jesus
yeah.
Christ. To do good against that guy, like, oh my goodness, that must be a
Yeah,
really good fucking fighter off the couch.
absolutely. Yeah, no, you're nailing it on that. That's definitely the case. A guy who you should probably keep the name in your mind for in the future because, to hold his own in this fight. Now, granted, the controversy came at the end of the fight where Moraes finally did end up securing a rear naked choke. We thought at least that Nkuta was going to be saved by the horn, but then there was a weirdness with the reffing and the ringside officiating where they went back to replay the final moments and decided that he was submitted, that he was out. He had gone unconscious before the end of the fight. So they ended up making this a submission win for Moraes, even though the fight had already ended. It was a little bit strange.
I do know of this. I did see the clips and it was interesting because again, credit to the guy. He almost made it to the end of the fight. A knee knocked him down and then we get to the ground with some ground and pound. And then we get a choke that is set in, the bell rings, and this is where everybody's up in arms. It's like he held the choke after the bell, they even looked at it in the replay. How could that even count? I'm not agreeing with anything that happened. I do agree that that should not have counted against him. That should have been a decision. Should not be a submission. A technical submission or whatever because it was after the bell. But I also do watch the fights every week, and I see the ref have to every time the round ends, he has to get between them because sometimes they go a little longer than they're supposed to. Shit happens. I mean, it's 1 to 2 seconds after the bell. It doesn't seem like a lot in the moment. Like if that's one extra punch, one extra squeeze. I'm not defending it, but for the fighter, for them to be mad that he didn't just let go when the bell stopped, it's like
Yeah,
they don't.
no,
That's
I agree completely with you on that. That's not even what I'm kind of like mad at, and I'm not even really mad about it, but that's not really where the controversy lies for me. That part was
mm,
fine. Like, yeah, what you just described is exactly
the
correct.
refs
I
got
mean,
to the refs got to pull
exactly.
him off.
And you posted in the Discord a clip of Herb Dean. He went on Ariel's show to kind of explain it, and I thought what he said was completely accurate. It's like the referee knows that he's going to have to go in there and get him off. He didn't think that it was so egregious that he thought it was disqualification worthy or anything like that. I was fine with all of that. What I thought was strange about this fight was that the horn sounded.
Mhm.
Why are we going back to review and trying to dissect and then having the conjecture of the commission to say he was out before the regulation time? I mean, like, if he made it to the horn, that's it. It should go to decision. Now, whether or not he was going to win this fight, that's, besides the point to me. It's really just a matter of if the horn sounds and he has not tapped out, then and the referee didn't stop the fight in regulation, this should have gone to decision. That was where the controversy comes to me personally.
Yeah, because the right call, in my opinion, would have let this go to decision, but then you have the side of the fan base that is like, "Oh, but he was out, brother. He lost. That he lost by submission, whatever. If he would have won the fight, whatever. If he would have lost the fight, whatever." But like that would have been the story. It's not about making the right call. Like, oh, did he submit him? With the before the bell? Because like even if you look at it right now, 4:59 on the clock is what they listed it as. It's like
Right.
you're so three in theory 2 seconds before when he was unconscious. He went unconscious well after 5 minutes or whatever. So uh, it's unfortunate for him. Aljamain Sterling's on a Twitter rampage right now about this. Saying this is why it's unfair for the fighters because they went to the officials, they went to the board where they rewatched it, and those guys clearly don't know what the fuck they're watching. Like the time was ended. Like you're supposed to judge from time to time. It's not anything before, not anything after. It's kind of crazy to me.
Well,
I do
that's
find the issue.
Yeah, and that's what you're saying though. It's like when it comes to the fan base, that is completely irrelevant. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like what they say is does not matter. So yeah, like and Herb Dean explained, he was like, oh, we look for the arms and the legs because the face is not going to tell you whether he's conscious or not, and that kind of thing. I understand that it's very difficult to ascertain whether he is conscious or not, especially, and I think he had his eyes closed as well. That makes it a lot more difficult too. But that's my point, is that if you cannot, like, you have to definitively, and I wish that in that clip that during the aerial interview he had said exactly, like, that's why when I responded to that clip was there are still a lot more questions that I have. I would have liked a definitive explanation of what you saw to make it so that you could have, without a shadow of a doubt, said this is when he went out. Because if you can't do that and the horn sounds, then that should be the thing that takes precedence, not use and the commission guys all saying that's the moment. You know what I mean? That was my issue with it. Like, this dude in Kuta should have gotten to go to the decision. And again, if he had, you could have 10-8'd that round if you wanted to. I'm not saying that you should have, but you know what I mean? Like, if that was what the judges had thought because of the club and sub, then fair enough. But like, it should have gone to that, that was where the controversy lied to me.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not a big fan of the officials being able to take a fighter away from a decision that they rightfully earned. You know, he went up against one of the best flyweights of all time, dude. I mean, come on, Mighty Mouse. Like, are we serious right now? Like, if
It's true.
like he went 3 hard rounds with that dude. He deserved to go to the bell. I mean, to get clipped at the last couple, seconds, big whoop. But the fact that he made it to the bell and then like, because it's even one of those things. Like, it's not like it would be one thing like, okay, he lets go and he's like asleep, like he's just like not waking up. It's like, okay, he was down for a second and then he pops back up, and it's like, okay, yeah, he was cool, But then to go back and replay and to give it a submission win, that's pretty scandalous, guys. Dude, he
Well,
was 11-0. God damn it.
yeah, that too. But to be fair, he was kind of out for a minute though after that let go.
He was, but, like, it wasn't, like, breathing heavy, unconscious, like,
Yeah, shaking the
he was
arms and kind of.
yeah, yeah, they didn't have to flip him over and lift his legs and do
Yeah.
he was able to get up on his own, whatever, I don't know, crazy.
Yeah. So regardless, unfortunate for Nkute. He comes in on short notice, takes his first loss, but really overall, I'd say a good showing in the big picture for him. He called for the rematch. Marai says he's okay with it. So whether they do it in MVP, whatever, it just was a little bit strange how it all ended up, but still a good fight though. I thought that this was actually another one of the standout fights on this thing. Moving on the card. Namo Faisal, this is the dude who was in Karate Combat, the Kurdish fighter. He went up against this guy Jake Baby, and the our audio only listeners will not be able to see this, but Chase, if you can see how he's looking, Jake Baby, in that picture there, he was doing this to the camera in a very like overly seductive way that was very uncomfortable to watch as a man. I was like, brother, I don't know why you're trying to like make love to this camera right now. He did this a lot in the during this thing. It was a
Just
little
in the
bit weird.
fight, he was just
Dude, bro, before the fight started, he's literally like he's doing like the blue steel over here from Zoolander to the camera. I'm like, this guy is trying to be a supermodel. Literally, people in the chat saying, not to be sus, but that's an attractive man. I'm like, brother, if you want to be a model, man. But either way, it was just a little bit weird. Namo Faisal gets the job done, got the submission as well. So that was really nice to see. And I brought that up about the UFC. Apparently, they're courting Namo Faisal now. So, the UFC, like I said, they could be watching Jason Jackson too.
the thing that's interesting about this fight is, so you said this is the Kurdistan guy, right?
Correct.
So after his fight, he goes to, he gets on the post fight and he's like, Armin, we got to talk sometime, he does whatever. So he gets out of the cage and there's videos of Armin, in the crowd, and then they talk. And then there's videos of Armin and his fucking gang of guys, like looking like they're ready to go fuck somebody up, walking around backstage looking for the dude. I think it's pretty funny because the Fazil, what's his name? Fazil?
Yeah, Namo Faisal.
He put out an apology video as well, like, all right, Armin, I'm sorry. I just think it's kind of funny. Like,
Oh,
damn, like,
really?
was there real beef? Like, what's happening here? Like, I'm confused on the whole situation because it kind of seemed like he got punked out a little bit by Armin. But
I mean, that definitely is what it seems like because Armin got kicked out of the event for that, apparently.
nice,
Yeah, yeah.
nice.
Apparently, Armin was trying to, do Armin doing Armin things, trying to cause a rabble rousing, and yeah, he ended up getting kicked out. So that is a little, yeah. You say he got kind of punked. I kind of have to agree with that. That's, I mean, bro, stick by your word. Because another shout out to Big Ben, who's a member of the chat, and he was saying that apparently Namo was talking shit about Mike Perry, trying to instigate a fight with him as well. And I was like, if he's trying to get out here and sell fights and trying to make a little bit more of a name for himself, nothing wrong with that. I mean, let him fight Mike Perry if he wants to fight Mike Perry. But if he's doing that with Armin and then putting out apology videos, bro, you gotta choose a lane and stick with it.
Yeah, it is what it is, man. Either way, that's the
Yeah.
only thing I know about that fight there. But this next one, of course, we have little to talk about, but I can't wait.
Yes, for sure. So I mean that it takes us out of the prelims portion of everything. This is on to the main card. So I mean, overall, just to end with the prelims, I thought that the prelims there was a couple of good fights, good competitive fights on there, but like if we're talking about good, not great, that I think would apply to a couple of them. I mean, like if we're talking again also about like trying to sell off of up and coming prospects and like making you care about the MVP product, I think it was a little bit too sparse in the greatness category to have accomplished that. And I think that that's an unfortunate thing because if these prelims, again, we're talking about the broader world that like, the more casual fans or whatever, if they're only getting sold off of the big names, we are the people that need to get sold off of the prelims. Like we need to be the ones on a show like this saying, damn, bro, if you didn't see these prelims, you really missed out. And I'm not necessarily saying that.
True, 100%.
So, all right, well, let's get into the main card then. And I'm sure that you've seen all of this stuff. So Robelis de Spain versus Junior Dos Santos. As you said, Junior Dos Santos in, his elder years here held his own for a little while, a little bit, but Robelis is going to Robelis, man.
What I would note that what I want to start, and this is a precursor to what we're going to talk about later, just because if I have to bring it up, I only decided to turn on the MVP promotion, and it just so happened to be at the time that this fight was coming on, is because the optimization that Paramount Plus was doing on my video, I had to prove to myself that it wasn't my internet. Like I've had my internet issues in the past, guys, but optimizing my playback video while I'm able to just watch Netflix with no fucking issue. I I can't tell you why it was happening. I can't tell you, So I turned this on and I'm able to watch Robelis d'Espagne in HD rather than the 360p on Paramount Plus that I normally get. So it was a breath of fresh air to go out here and see the big boy Robelis d'Espagne, which I brought it up earlier. This is a deep cut. Like to know that this is like star power right here is like, okay, some Jake Paul must know
Well,
what he's doing.
I mean, but I mean, to an extent, but Robelis was in the UFC. I mean, people were seeing him knock people out in the UFC, though.
One time,
Multiple times.
two at best.
Two at best, yeah.
So I mean, but the point is, I think it's really funny because he actually, when it comes to striking, I know this is MMA, but it is very interesting that if you stand there in front of him, you know, the way that he does throw his hands, he is probably able to generate a lot of velocity with how he throws them because they come from his hip and then he has to loop around. So I think that's part of what it is because obviously they're by his side, very hard to gauge where they're coming from, and then he's got long arms, he is a powerful striker, yada yada yada. But the main thing is if you give him an opponent who is pushing 50 years old, who is relatively in good shape, probably on some sort of supplements. I don't know if that's
Wild
what you would call it.
speculation.
Wild speculation. But Robelis d'Espagne once again does what he does, and he got a first round knockout. And to give credit to him, sometimes and even with his first UFC knockout, it wasn't like he flatlined the dude. It was kind of goofy. He was rolling back and threw punches, whatever you want to say, and the dude just fell over and held his face. He flatlined JDS, and I'm not saying it was impressive, but I mean, it was the knockout that I think the Biggie Boy had been deserving. He had gone to decision with Zach Pauga, so here we are, knockout on JDS. It's a resume builder, guys. If you think about it, at the end of the day.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, JDS, former heavyweight champion of the UFC, can't take that away, right? So yeah, I mean, that's you're right. I mean, it is like again, we're talking about somewhat of layups. This was the one fight on the main card that I thought could have possibly maybe had a little bit of an upset, perhaps, but not to be happening. And I mean, also like you're talking about Robelis and like the way he sets up the punches. he definitely generates a lot of power because he is so slow. I mean, like this is a lumbering dude, but you put him up against a guy who is, the speed is one of the first things to go kind of deal when you're at the age that he's at. It makes it so that he's able to do the things that he does well. So yeah, it's unfortunate for JDS. I mean, probably one of many people on this card who should not be fighting anymore, I would say. Even though he was doing pretty decent in bare knuckle for a little while, but like that is an offshoot promotion that it makes sense for him at the stage of his career that he is at to be in. This against a Robellis, a guy who's younger, a guy who's still close enough to his prime. This was not to be for JDS. So yeah, Robellis gets it done pretty easily, and it is what it
And
is.
I again, we all know I am not the guy to go out here and do this, and I'm not saying that this is what Junior Dos Santos did or didn't do. But I think when you have had so much experience, if the possibility that you could get knocked out, right? It's like, you just wake up later. For a lot of money, I could see JDS going into this very okay with the idea that he was just gonna get unconscious, and that's what happened. He didn't really look like he was, because we'll talk about it later. There are some people who came in here to their matchup and they treated it like it was the biggest fucking fight of their life, and other people just went in here having a good time. If Junior Dos Santos maybe shot a takedown or something, I would maybe believe it, but he he kind of looked like he was waiting for Robellis to just get him done.
Well, and that's the craziest thing is that it's like I think that was a lot of the speculation coming into this fight is like, is Junior Dos Santos going to shoot on him because that's all you need to do? It's like I don't understand if you're in the one combat arena where you actually have the ability to do that against Robellis and you don't do it, you're basically leaving money on the table, brother. Like, why did you not shoot on him? Have you not seen any of his previous performances where he lays on his back forever?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. But once again, Robellis Despaigne, hey, the biggie boy, whatever you want to say, the big boy. I'm sorry,
Yeah, I
not
would say Biggie
Rosenstruck.
Boy. Yeah, Rosenstrike is the Biggie Boy. But yes, the big boy Robellis to Spain, doing it for Central Florida. So I appreciate that, of course, even if it is against Junior Dos Santos out of the nursing home.
And
Um,
by way of Cuba, don't forget, guys, Robellis to Spain. I think it's Despaigne, man. That's how they say it in Karate Combat, and it's hilarious the way that
we
he does
we
it.
had that whole discussion on the watch along. Is it Despain, Despagne? They said Despan on the MVP
Nice.
promotion. I was like, this is another guy like Chris Taglioni,
Dude, that one's crazy. Yeah,
Yeah.
but no, shout out Rebellis, man. He for for a guy who is, aged in his career, he is definitely no spring chicken or whatever. What they have always said, black don't crack. This dude is looking good for his age. I mean, he's pushing 40, I'm pretty sure. Like
Is Robellis?
I'm pretty sure Robellis is like 36 or 7. Like I
All
don't know.
right.
He's
Well,
crazy.
good for him. Yeah, no, absolutely. And getting the job done here. So making it happen. Are you looking that up? Is that a-
Yes, 37. Yeah.
oh yeah,
Jesus.
wow. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, no, keeping it going, Robellis. He's got to worry
Um
about his own speed after a while.
But either way, we this next one is a good one to talk about as well.
And this is the one that, like, if there was a standout on the main card, this is definitely the takeaway here. This Saladin Parnasse. I mean, this dude is from France. I mean, granted, he's going up against this guy Kenny Cross, who was not necessarily the greatest level of competition, but I thought that Parnasse looked really good in this fight. You're making faces like you didn't think so.
I disagree. I think this is somebody that I'm gonna remember his name because I don't know why I get Parsnip Pete. That's just what But listen, Parnasse is somebody that I could feel I want to keep an eye on because I think a fraud check would be coming soon. Because for somebody who was, what was it, minus 1350 kind of deal,
Right.
fight went on a little too long. And I saw, and this Kenny Cross dude, they with those odds, it's like, all right, it's just with how everything else is going, it's like, all right, this is just a can to go out here and get destroyed in round one. He didn't. He didn't get destroyed. It actually, he was making Parnasse like the mistake. It wasn't mistakes because obviously Parnasse was like a way better athlete. He was way more skilled, but there was things that he was doing where it's like somebody with higher level game is gonna capitalize on this shit. Like I don't know. Like I feel like there was a time where he was crossing his legs when he had the body lock, and I'm like, all right, brother. Like now we got Polyana Viana to talk about later, but like so just things like that. Like it went on way too long. I'm sitting here thinking like, man, for a minus 1350, this fight should have been over in the first fucking minute. Like this, what this card is for. You're supposed to be the dude to go in here and starch him so everybody goes crazy. But
I mean, it still got it done in the first round.
he did, but it was not anything that I thought like, man, this is the next fucking
Well,
prospect up,
but it goes back to the same point. Like even a guy who's not a household name basically getting a layup. Really, this entire main card is full of layups. Robelis getting a layup, Parnas getting a layup. The next one we'll talk about one of the biggest layups. I mean, in the main event, of course, of the other a layup. So it's like, that was, I think, one of the things that held this card back. You're exactly right. If there had been like a better level of competition, at least it would have been a bigger conversation.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
No, this was a fun one to talk about. I'm definitely hate watching Incoming for Parnas wherever he goes.
yeah, and we're gonna have to see where he ends up because like exactly what that was. It was a layup, so somebody's going to say, "Oh, okay, well, people will remember him off the MVP card. He got a nice win there. Let's bring him in, and we'll have to see what level of competition he gets there."
Or he just goes back to France, or he ends up in like Octagon or something.
Brother's going to be running Eris FC for the rest of his life.
There you go. There you go.
All right. Well, let's talk about number one of three main events here. This is, of course, Francis Ngannou versus Felipe Lins. Felipe Lins got paid $100,000 to be a sitting duck against Francis Ngannou, though also a fight that went closer to the end of the round than I think people might have been expecting. On the watch long, I said people who had Francis by first round knockout might have been, puckering the asshole a little bit on this one.
I definitely agree. It went longer than the 15 feet that Francis was going to walk that I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
But to be fair, with how easy it was, I mean, he could have done it earlier. He really was just kind of getting his sea legs back. Francis has been out for a while, guys. He was just getting the vibes back of MMA. Waiting to see what we had going. A very measured Francis, by the way.
Yeah.
Hey, shout out to him. He was ready to compete. Let me just put it that way. But Felipe Lins, this is listen. Sometimes you get a guy who's really good at jujitsu, and they get a karate stance, and they think they can take on the fucking world, bro. Like listen. This guy had the nerve to go up and challenge. It's not like going up and challenge, of course, but like he was willing to go against Francis. I give him a lot of credit. I certainly would not. I'm okay with it because I know what this is. I think a lot of people who got the offer against Francis, other than Felipe Lins, they probably sat there and said, "This is for me to die on Netflix. Like I'm literally just gonna get punched and be unalived on Netflix. I'm okay. I'll pass." But Felipe Lins, give him the credit. He took a fight that we all know he was going to lose. Like again, this is the point. On paper, the fights looked one sided, and then they panned out one sided. That's a huge problem. But what it ended up being is Francis plodding around for a little bit, and then he ends up landing an overhand. Felipe Lins kind of falls like what Buchecha did. It just like a big old piece of meat just fucking slabs on the canvas, and yeah,
France
that was it. Yeah.
and Francis standing over his limp body, not, no follow-ups needed, as a walk-off KO basically.
Francis, I think he is like when Dana was talking shit about him on social media. I think it's gotten to him because I think he knew not to throw that extra strike right there because like for his image sake, it's gonna play into I'm a bad person. I don't know if you also heard supposedly Francis had given his winnings to Felipe Lins during this,
Oh,
so
I did not know that. I hope that would be very good if he did, because I did mention Lynn's got the 100,000. Francis got 1.5 million for this fight, or I think 1.6.
So yeah, so whatever he gave some sort of the winnings to Felipe Lins. Shout out to him for getting knocked out, and I think that was also Francis thinking I can make my image look really good right here if I didn't ground and pound him when he was unconscious, and if I just give him a little charity. I made $1 million. What's fucking 100 grand? I still got
Sure.
900,000 more.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And all of the bag that he made fleecing the PFL, of course. So yeah, Francis doing okay off of that. I do, I guess, want to at least mention that John Jones apparently was supposed to be commentating this fight, but just did not show up. So he ended up showing up late, and basically it was on commentary for about 5 minutes. And it
I
just long
Yeah,
enough to, like, have like a long distance stare down, I guess you could call it.
That's weird because I remember seeing like that was like a big headline, like John Jones is gonna be commentating the Francis fight. And I remember after the fight, because this is again while I was watching the UFC, it would end. This is actually we didn't even we'll talk about the next big thing because you didn't get to see how it played out. But um the I don't even know where I was going, but the thing that actually the main thing that I need to bring up because I don't know if you were watching live and you didn't see the timing of this. So while you were watching the UFC, it went to break. People were saying it was when he walked out. That is not true. It is when Francis won the fight and was having his post-fight speech. The Conor McGregor announcement played right then and there.
Yeah,
So
I did hear that, of course. Yes, breaking news, everybody. Conor McGregor versus Max is confirmed. UFC 329, right?
yes, absolutely. Yeah. So it's in 1 month or 2 months or whatever. I forget what it is. Yeah, next month probably.
Next month, I think. Yeah. So, great, I guess, if you care about that. Some people still do perhaps, but, yeah, the timing obviously was strategic on that part to make sure that it happened during Francis Ngannou being, in the octagon, in the hexagon in this case. But yeah, I mean, again, it's like one more jab at Francis from the organization. Great. That being the jab. It's just like this weird, like, I don't know. It's just part of the politics of the sport that it's just like nonsense to me a little bit. I don't know. Is there more to this than what I'm seeing out of this?
No, no, that was absolutely it. Yeah, it was just a quick little promo, and then they showed the fight card, and it was right when Francis was, winning, getting the little winning speech, which is all fair and well. But yeah, back to what I remember we were talking about with the John Jones thing. Crazy, he just didn't show up, and he talked a little bit. I saw maybe a clip or two, but not getting to commentate the 4 minutes of Francis fighting is whatever. But yeah, there was nothing more in that moment. Nothing Connor related that was really crazy. I mean, him coming back so soon. I mean, saying it's going to be next month or whatever was pretty crazy.
Oh
But
yeah, and actually, shout out to Johnny the God in the chat saying that no, it is actually a 2 months time because we have the White House card next month.
okay, gotcha. Okay, yeah. So I mean, 2 months away. Still pretty quick to just throw that like, hey, Connor's coming back in 2 months kind of deal. So
Sure.
it,
But yeah, I mean, so you had the Connor announcement, you had John Jones basically just there in order to maybe try to sell something out of that, even though, John is still under contract with the UFC and cannot, maybe might be able to buy his contract out, but probably not for
did
that fight anyway.
did you see the clips going around of what he was saying? Him and Tyron Woodley were at the commentate, not whatever desk or whatever, and Tyron Woodley is explaining to him the best way for him to get his contract voided with the UFC. So
Oh, what did he? I remember the conversation, but I don't remember the details. What did he say?
I can't remember exactly what he said, to be fair,
Ah,
but this was also John Jones was having multiple different like multiple conversations with people about how he could get out of his UFC contract so he could fight Francis, which we all know that ain't happening,
yeah,
guys.
well, big businessman John Jones over here. Mister, I don't get out of bed for for less than 50 grand, whatever. I'm having such a great time and doing all this other business stuff. Signs a multi-fight deal with the UFC right before retiring that he cannot get out of that has no sunset clause. Galaxy brain, John. Congratulations on being businessman of the year. I mean, Forbes is going to have you on the cover.
Yeah, 100%. Yep.
But
That's it's just crazy. But yeah, either way, go
so,
on.
I mean, the only reason I even bring any of that up is to just say that if there was any sellable moment out of that, like even knowing a fraction of the details from the business side of the sport just killed any of it. You know what I mean? Like if you had John Jones on your broadcast, great. Like it's not going to do anything for you since we know that he's not going to be able to fight in this promotion. Jake Paul being in the cage was more of a sellable fight than that. And I don't think anybody really cares about seeing Jake Paul versus Francis after the Joshua fight. So what are we doing here? You know what I mean? It's just you took the wind out of your own sails.
100%. Yeah.
All right. And so let's get to the second of the main events, Mike Perry versus Nate Diaz. This was, I think, the one that most people were excited about if they are actually combat sports fans, for like thinking that there could have been something decent to come out of this fight. Nate Diaz so far a shadow of his former self at this point that like there was nothing to be had here. Shout out to Mike Perry for actually going out and fighting like he really wanted to win this fight because he certainly did that. And Nate, his body just basically letting him down. I mean, there's so much scar tissue on his face that the cuts were going to open up one way or another, just, depending on where it was going to happen or when. And Mike Perry made all of that happen. So this fight completed 2 full rounds and they stopped it before the third. I mean, Nate was turning his back a whole bunch in this fight, looking like he didn't want to be there after all of that dumb shit that he was talking in that face-to-face sit down that we reviewed on the channel. This guy needs to A, go away, and B, never speak again.
So this goes back to what I was saying is in these matchups, you had one person who was fighting as if it was the biggest fight of their life. And then you had the other person who was just there. They're just there, they just showed up and they happened to be the other guy fighting. And a lot of people, and I understand for people who are truly, they don't watch mixed martial arts. They don't know who Nate Diaz is. They know him by name, they know Stockton, but they don't really watch him that much. For me, this is your average 2026. I mean, this is Nate Diaz, guys. Like, I was
Yeah.
not surprised to see him walk away. I was not surprised to see like the most surprising thing. And this one was actually pretty funny when it happened because I was really confused. So Nate Diaz in the first round gets hit with a body shot on the opposite side of his liver, and he almost folds to it. I'm like, what in the what? Like, that is the craziest thing I've ever seen. It's like Mike Perry. I get he punches hard, but like a non-liver side shot, Nate Diaz. Like, I'd seen you take a lot, brother, but that one right there was he caught him. But the thing about Nate Diaz at this point, he's unable to compete, professionally because he's going to bleed so much that they have to do something about it. It's not even just the amount of blood. It was actually the size of the cut. That cut on the side of his head was fucking crazy. And
Mhm.
he was just going to continue to get worse. But the thing about this is it works perfect for Nate Diaz. And other fighters in this sort of sense, that are so tough they'll never quit. It works in Nate Diaz's favor that the doctors have to stop every one of his fights because he can run with the I would have won if we kept going. If the doctors didn't stop it, I would have won. And to that point, what I think is very interesting. So Mike Perry whooped ass first 2 rounds, but he was getting tired. He was walking with his hands down, and I truly believe, and I am with Nate Diaz on this one on the side of the delusion. If the fight could have been continued past where it would, um, that judo throw in the first round looked pretty slick. He probably could have got another one, and I think Nate Diaz would have got a submission late. I'm not lying.
I mean, that is some conjecture and wishful thinking all wrapped up into one. Uh, if Nate wants to go with that, and Nate Diaz fans want to go with that, then that is perfectly fine. What we ended up seeing was Mike Perry doing enough damage to get this thing stopped way earlier. I was actually very lucky. I had this fight on my parlay to go over to complete 2 full rounds, and I was like, please don't stop it. And then they finally stopped it after the round had ended. I got lucky with that.
I just think it's Mike Perry. I love Mike Perry. I have no problem with him, but Leon Edwards left this dude a bloody fucking mess, and we know how harmless that guy is. Like, so Mike Perry, I figured this is what it was going to be. I'm very grateful that but when because I was in a chat with people, and again, this is the average Nate Diaz experience for me. I've seen this dude lose quarts of blood at this point, all over the fucking ring. Everybody's like, "Oh my god, he's leaking," and I'm like, guys, we haven't even just begun yet. Like,
Have
just
you
just
never
give it a
seen his
second.
fights before?
Exactly. Like, just give it 2 more minutes. I mean, 3 jabs and the dude is already, a gust of wind. The ref comes by and just, oh my goodness, it's crazy to me that this fight. Whatever. I was in the call with people who were enjoying this. I personally, I'm more of the competition form of mixed martial arts, so I knew there wasn't much competition here, but people seem to enjoy it.
Well, but that's the point though, is that like on this main card, this was one of the better competitions, which is like a part of the problem of what we're talking about here. If we go back down the line of all the layups, this was one that was not necessarily like as much of a layup, but that should not necessarily be when you're trying to sell a promotion. If you are, I mean, Jake Paul's been a little vague about whether or not he wants to continue this on or whatever. So it's like, maybe this was just a one-off, and like getting all these old names together is what you needed. But like, if you're gonna have all of these layups, and then this is the one fight that actually had a little bit of competition to it, it wasn't the greatest competition within that framework.
Yeah, no, gosh, this was interesting, but like I said, just average Nate Diaz performance. At the end of the day, you can't really say too much about it. I had another thought, but I think it'll come to me here in a second. But yeah, if anything else you got to say about Mike Perry and Nate Diaz,
Really not much, honestly. Again, I think that Mike Perry. Well, the one thing I would say, I guess, is that Mike Perry, I think, has matured over the years. I think he has kind of gotten a little bit more down to earth. And in his post fight, he was pretty respectful of everything. And then still delusional Nate saying that he wanted a rematch after this fight. Mike Perry saying, "Okay, buddy, if you really want it, we can do it." Like I was like, yeah. I mean, that just really tells you the difference in the type of mentality that these two have, which was also present in the face to face as well.
what I will also say, and this is my thought that I remember, is we talk about Nate Diaz. We've seen him bleed. We've seen him take worse cuts, worse beatings, longer beatings, whatever you want to say. I think personally, with this being the first Netflix mixed martial arts event, there was no chance they were going to let it go as far as we've seen the UFC or other promotions have let it go, because if Nate Diaz went out there and everybody has this idea that this is the most brutal, reckless, ruthless fucking thing, because look at his face, it's fucking eviscerated after a fight with a guy like that, if everybody was to have this idea that mixed martial arts was so dangerous, like you could end up like that guy, I think it was going to be not good for Netflix and their mixed martial arts promotion because this is so many people watching it at the end of the day. We got the human cockfighting conversations coming back up at that point, So I think ending it with reasonable,
Yeah, you don't want to get it overly brutal, I guess is what you're saying.
which we've seen it, we've seen him let fighters continue on, Irene Aldana,
Of course.
but that was probably just never going to be in the cards for a card like this.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying with that. Kind of hard to say, I guess. I understand where you're coming from, though. With the Netflix being the platform and the potential amount of eyes, of different age ranges, all of that kind of thing. There could have been some of that in there. I'm not going to say that outright no, that isn't the case, but
Mhm.
I mean, really, if you looked at the size of the cuts either way, like I mean, like I think that it wasn't a bad stoppage one way or another. I mean, like, and that's
No,
just where he's gotten to. Look, we this is nothing new, as you had said. I mean, like he's been taking the BMF fight that he was the co-founder of. I mean, that had to be a doctor stoppage there too. This is a long time issue with him. That entire side of his face, he gets cut in the same spot all the time because that whole side of his face is just scar tissue at this point. And it's like you have that, and then you also pair it with the body language that was terrible in this fight for him. Like he looked like he didn't want to be in there anymore. So it's like all of those things coalesce into an outcome that I think made sense for this.
yeah, 100%.
All right. And that all being said, of course, we have to talk about the main event, Rousey versus Carano. Everybody all up in arms about this fight. Like, I think that anybody who is up in arms about this fight should look at Ronda Rousey's record with arm bars against competition of the caliber of Gina Carano. If there was a graphic that somebody posted recently that had all of the arm bars that she's completed and the times that it took for her to complete them, this was exactly in line with what Ronda Rousey does and how fast she does it against competition from the era that Gina Carano occupies. I don't think that this should have gone any differently, people. I hate to say it. And I know that you have a lot of thoughts about how this fight was sold and if Gina Carano should have been in it. I'm going to let you get to all of that. But my point for anybody who is upset with Ronda Rousey getting this armbar as quickly as it was, I mean, I literally on the watch along laid out the sequence as it was going to happen, how this was going to end, and it happened point by point by point, exactly as I laid it out. This is the inevitable outcome for this, and as fast as it was supposed to go. Whether or not it should have been Gina, whether or not, this was the right matchup, whatever, she's getting sold off of the name. I understand all of that, but to be upset about how this ended is to not have acknowledged all of what Ronda Rousey did in her career prior against this level of competition.
I have spoken a lot of my piece on this one. So what I will say is I agree with you. Ronda Rousey is one of the greatest mixed martial artists of all time. She has done this plenty of times. You should have known that this was going to be very easy for her against a 44-year-old woman who was 17 years removed from the sport, who lost 100 pounds to get in shape for this event. And to be fair, looked as if she went in there to have a really good, fun fight. And as I said about a lot of other ones, the opposer walked in here as if this was the biggest opportunity of their fucking life. Listen, Ronda Rousey, this is my biggest thing. Like I said, I already acknowledged one of the greatest mixed martial artists of all time. I personally, when I was in high school, I started watching mixed martial arts because Ronda Rousey, she's pretty cool, she's good, whatever. Listen, for somebody who was the greatest at a time, I would I would hope that you had more respect for the game than to come into a fight like this with your mean face on, locked in, like you are like you're gonna run through this chick, which arguably you should. This is exactly what it should have been. That's why this fight should not have been made, is my point. And
Right.
so for her to go in here in 17 seconds, armbar her, and then to get on the mat, fucking crying, hugging her, giving like the whole speech, like this is like such a great opportunity. It's like you are making a mockery of the sport right now. And like you supposedly take the shit so serious, you know. Um Again, this was not a good look for me personally. You know, Ronda Rousey, hats off to you, one of the greatest of all time. But the fact that she has the nerve to talk about Kayla Harrison, as a bronze Olympic medalist, Ronda Rousey, to talk about a gold medalist, of course. I even believe a two-time, if I'm not mistaken. But Kayla Harrison is doing something that she would never even think to do at this point. They're roughly still even around the same age. Like, I mean, obviously Ronda's like way removed from the sport, but Kayla Harrison is trying to beat the greatest mixed martial artists of all time when it comes to female sports. Ronda Rousey is looking for 44-year-old women who are 17 years removed from the sport, who lost 100 pounds for this fight and went in here to have a fun, probably pitter patter performance. Like, I'm not saying I expected much more, but I just hate that this is where Ronda Rousey has taken her career, because I really did. Again, one of the greatest mixed martial artists of all time, male or female. So whatever.
So, Oscar De La Hoya had very, very briefly, only for one event, he had Golden Boy MMA. I don't know if you were watching the sport much when this was happened. This is maybe 5, 6 years ago now. And the main event of that card was Tito Ortiz versus Chuck Liddell 3. And of course, Chuck Liddell had beaten Tito Ortiz twice. And this was Tito Ortiz's big moment to try to get that back. Chuck Liddell, I mean, at this stage, even then, was, again, a shadow of his former self. Went in there, got annihilated by Tito, and Tito walked around with, this fist high in the air. I did it. I really did it. Very much like this. You know what I mean? It reminded me, the circumstance is slightly different, but similar in the outcome. Because yeah, you're taking, it's like you said, Ronda coming in, putting everything on this fight against a person who, and you saw it in Gina's face. I mean, Gina got armbarred. She hopped right up. She's smiling. She's hugging. She's laughing. Everything is great. She looked like Ben Askren after getting knocked out by Jake Paul, just happy to be here. It's nice to experience this all one more time. And it's like, yeah, you say it's a mockery. I mean, like it does have the overtones of that based on the circumstances. And I do also acknowledge what you're saying about her with Kayla Harrison. Yeah, I mean, to think that Ronda could hold a candle to Kayla Harrison in any capacity, or would be willing to have the stones to take that fight. You're talking all of this shit from the sidelines. Kayla said it best in that tweet. Fight me then. If you
Yeah.
really are like that. If you really think that, then let's go. Never would happen. So I do agree, like in the big picture, this was unfortunate. It went as it should have gone, but every fight went as it should have gone. And again, that's the layup aspect of this. It ended up being more circus like than it needed to be, and I think that is why this ultimately was a little bit of a failure.
That's just the unfortunate thing about it. I mean, people enjoyed it. I know fight fans that watch the UFC. I know that they watched it and they enjoyed it. I personally know a few of them. They had a good time. I went to work, and I talked to some people at work who had watched this, and it is what it is, guys. People watched it. People wanted to talk about how empty it looked, but the thing of the matter is, the seats may have been empty. The fact is, the fighters got paid supposedly, and and the seats might have been sold. Who knows? Because people don't show up until the main event. Not many people are watching 4 to 6 hours of fights just in the arena in their seat. You see all the time people just show up for the main card. They just watch the main card only, or they just watch the main event. So the seats might not have been sold, or they may have. We're never going to know because they only showed up for one fucking fight probably and left. I see their homie and then they left. But if Netflix is able to pay these people, I'm down for it. I just personally, with the level of names and where they're at, and the where the names are at in their careers, I don't see this being a more than once a year promotion, if possible. If at best kind of deal. So I don't know.
No, I agree with you on that. I'm glad you mentioned the attendance numbers in the building because it did fill out a little bit towards the end, maybe, but it still looked pretty sparsely attended. I heard tickets were astronomically expensive, which for this card seemed very stupid. So maybe that had something to do with it. Could be what you said. People just showing up for certain fights, whatever. What I will say though is that it was almost eerie in the first fight of the evening, the Avila versus Jenkins fight, to have them fight. There was literally no one in the building. I mean, it was an empty building. The only people in the building were people working the show. So that
Hmm.
was a little bit strange. It did get a little bit better after the fact. That all aside, as you said, I think that, if we're trying to say that this could have legs to keep going, 50-50 on whether they're going to be able to put a card together that's going to actually deliver for people, and if people after seeing this are going to come back for another card. Because like I said, all of those names on the top of the card here may be saved for Perry and Ganu and Despaigne, maybe, in Parnas, I guess, if you want to throw him back in there. But like, of named fighters that you might have like repeat value off of, it's going to be hard to set them up again with something that's going to be able to replicate. And if not, then you're just gonna have to have like more of a draw. Like, you almost set yourself up for failure with a card like this when it all goes exactly to plan, and the undercard doesn't deliver as much as maybe it should have, etc. So all of the dynamics of what we just talked about are why I'm kind of on the fence as to whether or not this will be successful going forward. That's about it.
See, and that's the interesting thing is, like, you compared this to a circus. When you have the main attraction, it's just that's the attraction. In martial arts, you have to have your main attraction, but you also have somebody who's willing to keep stepping up against that person. So how many times a year, Karate Combat, they tried it. They had a couple cards. At the beginning of 2025, they ran like 5 cards for every month. They gave Rebellis Espana maybe 4 fights, and then they ran out of fucking people for him to fight. They found him a tournament later in the year, and then they ran down all the competition there, got them all injured, and Zach Palga he just left. He went to dirty boxing, I'm pretty sure. Like, so too many things are going on, but how many times out of the year are you going to be able to book Rebellis Espana against somebody who's worth putting him up against on a Netflix card? Because Junior Dos Santos, whatever you want to say, being old or not, I mean, that is somebody who is credible in mixed martial arts. It's not just Tony Gonzalez who's outside the fucking arena that they found for him. So,
Yeah.
hmm.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess everybody's going to have a different opinion about it. I'm kind of surprised that you said that you heard people who enjoyed it, because I've been hearing a lot of negative reaction to it. But I'm glad to hear that, I guess, to an extent. I mean, if
Oh,
if casual fans were enjoying it, that's actually a good thing, I would say.
I was listen. They were having a good time from what I was hearing. Whether they say they didn't enjoy it or not, they were laughing and having a good old grandiose time from what I heard.
So yeah, maybe enjoyment is relative as well, perhaps.
True.
All right, but either way, that was MVP MMA one. Rousey versus Carano. Take away from it what you will, and we'll see if Jake Paul and company can come back and have more success in the future, perhaps. And we'll see if Jake Paul actually gets in the cage at any point, right? He's talking about fighting Mike Perry in MMA. That would be, I think, the only maybe way he could have a little bit of stock left, if any. I don't know. I think his stock is pretty much gone.
I think the last thing that I thought that was valuable from this is once again Nate Diaz. He's always been a fan favorite for a reason. Because at the end of his little post fight speech, he's like, I'm gonna fight him again. I'm gonna fight his ass, and then I'm gonna fight yo ass. That was good.
Yeah, never change, Nate. Never change. But either way,
Ladies and gentlemen, Nathaniel Diaz.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yep. So there you have it. That's the way it is. Let's move on to the UFC. Why don't you shout out the chat real quick, Chase?
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody in the chat, thank you for coming by. Rectful, you're a Chad. Appreciate you for stopping by. Johnny the God and Meat Rocket, of course, and Fresh Diego. Oh, Fresh Diego, of course. Appreciate you. Hopefully you're still here. I know I didn't get you earlier, but you're a man. You're a man
Abs
or the man, whatever, one of those.
Hopefully both. Either way, yes, appreciate all you guys. Thank you for rocking with us as we get into the UFC card. Of course, this is UFC Fight Night, Allen versus Costa. This took place at the Meta Apex in Las Vegas, Nevada. Chase, on paper, we talked about this last week. We were saying, not necessarily the strongest level of competition here, not necessarily the biggest names. It felt, at least during that week, that they might have kind of took all of the cast offs and put them on this card, knowing that the MVP card might have siphoned a little bit of viewership away. But I mean, we'll talk about the quality level of it going forward. On paper, what did you think of this card coming into it?
On paper, I think this was handcrafted of an event of people who may or may not be like there was some fan favorites because obviously you can't have literally all like you can't have just 16 fighters that are just not liked at all. Obviously, some are going to be liked a little bit, some are going to be more than others, but I think these were definitely these were people that not many people were really looking forward to see fighting. So that is why they ended up on the card together, which is unfortunate because there were some. And we'll talk about them specifically. Some fights had draws that you'd be like, okay, this is why they would tune in for this right here, but then they'll go do something else. It's not oh banger, 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 highs and lows. It's like there's one where it's like, okay, you see what they were doing, you see what they were trying.
Sure.
But
Yeah, I would say that that's a pretty fair assessment overall. As I said, we talked it through on the show last week. I thought that this was somewhat of a weak card. And, what we always say about that is every card, especially those ones that seem like they're weaker, sometimes turn out to be the best cards. And we'll go through our thoughts, of course, about all of this as we get through the card. But just, to just to tip the hand a little bit, I thought that this delivered in a pretty nice way. So, let's talk it all through. I don't think that there's any other preamble here. We can get right into the first fight of the evening. Shauna Bannon. She fought Nicole Cagliari. This, of course, is Nicole Cagliari at the lower weight. This is her debut, I believe, at straw weight. Am I right about that?
yes, it is.
So there you go. Yeah, I mean, looking good at the lower weight. Looks like a smart move for her to have done this. Now, granted, she's going up against Shauna, who as much as I am a fan of Shauna Bannon for various reasons, her fighting ability has never necessarily been one of them. I think I called this one pretty correctly coming into it.
I give you guys props. I mean, Nicole Cagliari, I have always liked her and I've respected her for being a very tough fighter. But what I will say is weight classes are weird, guys, because Shauna Bannon for what it was, for at the time that she was decent, she was a little taller, lengthier, rangy, and Nicole from a different weight class is very short, stout, pit bull style. But when she dropped weight, I mean, give her props. I mean, she was in the greatest shape I think I've ever seen somebody in the world. She looked crazy good. And she wasn't short and stout anymore. It was kind of crazy. Like she was the bigger fighter here. Obviously you would drop down a weight class and you would think, but she made Shauna look a little small. And I was like, wow, okay, I was always going to assume that Cagliari was going to have that I'm shorter than everybody effect kind of deal. But I was pleasantly surprised that she looked in shape, she looked imposing, and she used her fucking, she used her physical force to go ahead and manhandle Bannon. Go ahead.
I say you made a great point coming into this fight, though, that Cagliari dropped the weight correctly, and that I think it goes so far when you see the results of that. Like this is not a Hamzat situation where they're just rapidly dropping weight. Now, obviously, Hamzat had extenuating circumstances, but still, you saw how it affected him in the fight. Cagliari took the time to cut the weight correctly. She was posting pictures of her progress and all of that kind of stuff. So obviously, it was regimented, and really, it showed because she was still powerful at this lower weight. That was the thing that stood out to me. I mean, you could see she was still a little shorter. I mean, maybe somewhat comparably heighted, but like, I think she was a little bit shorter still. It seemed at least at times. But the power was definitely still there at the lower weight. You could see that when she was getting those beautiful tosses in. Good Lord, the up and over mat returns for Cagliari twice in this fight really stood out, especially that first round. And then, of course, Shauna Bannon with the handshake agreement to just accept the position in this fight. That was really her major downfall. But I'm sorry to interject. I just wanted to at least say that Cagliari she should be an example to other fighters about, like, if you're going to make that move, do it correctly and do it, properly with the nutrition and the training to make it so that you're not just moving the weight, you're moving the weight properly and effectively, because this is what could happen.
Yeah, I 100% shout out her dedication to the sport because she was willing to go ahead and do that. She wants to succeed, so she's going to do the things that she believes is going to make her better as a fighter, aka losing some weight, using some more of your genetics. She's listen, she can get a takedown. I'll give her that, and she can squeeze. But the thing about this is Shauna, she again accepted a lot of positions on the bottom. Second round came around and Nicole looked like she was starting to slow down. And I was like, ah, damn it, there it goes. Maybe she didn't cut it as well as I thought. But she was able to just pick it right back up towards the end of the round. And then the third round, of course, easy skating's by, and then she fucking subs her. And Shauna Bannon fucking taps out. And it is what it is, brother. You for somebody who I remember at the beginning of the second round when it started to go Shauna's way, I was sitting here saying, I was like, I heard fucking an Irish person ask who gave her the black belt. And at the end of it, I said, that Irish guy was on to something, man. Who gives out black belts in Ireland? God damn. So
Well, I mean, Bannon, yeah, again, the accepting of the position was really noticeable, and then also just the lack of urgency to try to get back to her feet. It's not only just accepting the position, it's also the positional awareness, because there were times where she was basically on the fence. I mean, like, it's 101 when it comes to this sport. Get to the fence, use the fence to get back up. She's on the fence, not doing anything to use the fence to her advantage. It's like, it's the acceptance plus the fight IQ a little bit, perhaps. You'd think by now Shauna Bannon would have that, but it didn't seem to be on display there. I also said that in that second round, Bannon, the one thing I said about Cagliari is that she's just going to need to get past the kicking range, because Bannon loves to use that kangaroo hop kick. That's going to be something that if you get past it, you can get your hands on her. And that was something that was certainly on display here. But it's not only the kangaroo kicks, it's the fact that Bannon never seems to have any power or intention with her kicks. Like, she makes it a lot easier to get past the range and in close, on her, because you're not worried about taking damage off of them. And I think that really showed in this fight. Bannon did steal that second round at the very end there when Cagliari did look like she was slowing down a little bit. She got some nice strikes to the side of the head. At the very end of the round, I was like, okay, 1-1 going into the third. We're gonna have to see how Cagliari comes out, but another nice toss for Cagliari in that third round. And any momentum that Bannon gained in that second round, she just gave away it by accepting position in the third. And then finally that head and arm choke. I mean, Cagliari had it. She probably almost could have finished it off of the position she started off with, but I absolutely loved that she got herself in the correct position. We see so many times people are going for head and arm and then not going to move positionally to, like, cinch it up and finish it. I'm like, you're going halfway to get no gain out of the other side of it. Cagliari actually did it. So really, I loved this performance from Cagliari. I'm just curious if she'll be able to replicate against fighters who are a little bit more intense than Shauna Bannon. But in this fight for this moment, I thought Cagliari did really, really well.
to answer that question, I actually think what's coming for her future is really good in that department because the people that she lost to at a weight class above her, talk about outmatched, outclassed, outmatched by two people in Ernesta Cadetskate, who is volume and pressure in itself. So
Tall.
exactly. So she's got good experience against somebody who's willing to walk her down and throw punches. And then again, she got finished by Carly Judice, who is again a fucking killer right now. So she's got good experience against two really good people in the division above her. She could take that in here, and obviously she made it work. She was able to see the non-aggression out of Shauna and just like blitz right through it, get her down, and then obviously finish her. The thing about Nicole, what I really appreciate from her is like you look at her, you could say what you want, she's buff, she's in shape, she's locked in, but the thing about her is she has 100% finish rate. She is a finish or be finished kind of person. She's got one split decision or whatever, but when it comes to finishing, that is her thing. She can TKO and she can sub you, as you saw right here. So I appreciate her for listen. Women's banger, first fight of the night. There you go. So
Yeah, I
appreciate
thought
her.
Yeah, I agree. I thought this lived up to that. Really, I'd say from Sean O'Bannon's side, like use this as the biggest of wake up calls. You need to work on your get up game. I mean, it's absolutely necessary. You're not going to have 3 rounds always. Like, that could have happened in the first round that had an arm.
Mhm.
So, you just got it. You have to have that urgency and, strike with a little bit more intention. I'd say that is the two things that I've kind of always said about Sean O'Bannon. Really, if you go back to our predictions, judging a lot off the Puja Tomar fight, like Puja's a little scrapper for sure. And, she ended up getting it done. And Shauna did have some good moments in that and almost got finished herself. Like, you need to utilize all of these fights that you've had and like pick out the instances where improvement like can be found. This fight should definitely be a bigger beacon to you to be like, okay, these are definite holes that I need to shore up sooner than later. Because Nicole Cagliari coming down a weight, that's not always, you're gonna have more natural weighted people that are gonna be able to do exactly that, if not worse.
What I would like to see out of Cagliari's future, real quick, is she established herself quick. She's obviously suffered 2 losses in the promotion already. She just got her first win. Let's turn it back. Let's run it back really quick. Let's see her in like Abu Dhabi or something. Let's just have her, ship her off, get her a quick win against somebody who's literally gonna give her a fucking, I don't fucking know. Nah, Daria's bantamweight, I'm pretty sure, but you get the point. Just give her somebody really quick. Let her get a win under her belt. Come in 2-2 with a fresh start in this new division. And I think she's doing some good things. Strawweight is wide open. What is it, Mackenzie Dern? So let's see what happens. A lot of
Yeah, for
grappling.
sure. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, coming in now 9-4, obviously not the greatest record. So quick turnaround, get another win in there. 10-4 looks a lot better than 9, I would say.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
good deal. Yeah, good start to this thing, and then keeping it going with another really good fight, a surprisingly good fight in this next one. I thought this is Daniel Bareth versus Luis Garroulet. This was, we talk about like one long round fights. This felt like that, but it was one long round of awesome. I thought. I mean, like this was Rock'em Sock'em Robots. These guys just in each other's faces, laying shots on nonstop. And really, I think it's a credit to Garroulet that he was able to keep the pace that he kept because both of them were cardio wise pretty sound and the output was certainly there. Goulet was just like, I don't want to say like 2 times ahead. I think he was like 1.5 times ahead overall in this fight. And it added up over the course of this thing. But I think Bareth deserves a lot of praise, even if this was 30-27s across the board.
Yeah, no, this one I actually was I'm glad you brought it up because this was my one long round of the night kind of deal. This one, it was the same thing over and over again. They stood in front of each other, not much head movement, but they punched the shit out of each other. I'll give you that. And what I will say about this is, and this is the unfortunate thing about MMA, and when you're at the highest level, anything is possible because you see somebody like Gurule, who has not won anything at the highest level, came in at 10-0, lost 3 straight when he got to the UFC. There's just no reasonable way for you to justify picking him unless you really just fucking know these styles and shit like that. But like picking somebody who's 0-3 in the organization against somebody who's made a career in the organization, like it's crazy to see just how close they could be, like, and that should really be, unfortunately, Bareth, he should probably understand that he just lost to a guy that has been unable to win yet, so it's probably time that you got call it, brother. I mean, if you just lost to the lowest level flyweight that we have, I mean, 0-3 in the organization, name me another flyweight right now, like
Yeah,
that's
somebody coming in off the contender series maybe might be the only remainder there, I would say.
Well, but like, it's not even just coming in, like you have to lose 3 times like, in the organization, and that's really impressive. Like the fact that they even gave him this before just like canning him off like, bro, you're just not made out for it, like
Well, what I would say, I guess, at least as a minor counter to that, because I do have this in the notes too, is that when I say people should be fighting like their jobs depend on it, because Goulet certainly that was the case. That's how it's done right there. I mean, bro would not be denied. He was a man on a mission in this fight. So, whether or not that should be enough to carry you to a victory, questionable. I certainly, acknowledge that. I mean, Barrett, it doesn't matter what his circumstances are. You still need to go out and win the fight. He did not do that. So your point does stand, but I will at least give Gurule that leeway to say, like, this dude knew he was on the chopping block, knew that 4 in a row was not going to stand, and came out and fought like that was the case. So, I'll give him that at least.
Yeah, but my thing about that, and I'm not trying to take anything away from Gurule. I think this was a great performance. He deserves to be around. I think he's fun for what it is. But the problem is that Gurule, he didn't really change shit. He didn't really change anything for the better. He still gets punched in the fucking face. He still gets close fights that he probably could have lost if the dude would have just punched him right on the button and dropped him one time. He would have, whatever you want to say. Gurule won, and it seems to be as a hard-nosed fighter, like he's gonna fight the way that he's gonna fight, and at the end of the day, that's good in certain aspects, but you've been 0-3 doing it since. I'm proud of you for getting the one, but you didn't necessarily show me that you have improved past the 0-3 fighter, like.
I mean, yeah, well, I said that you were definitely correct that like even as a wrestler, a guy with a wrestler base, he really does just want to be a striker out there. So like you're certainly correct about that. But Chase, you're denying the suplex. I would have thought of all people, WWE fan Chase Parton would have appreciated one of the cleanest suplexes. By the way, this was like a legit up and over, full on back connection with the mat suplex. I mean, this really was picture perfect as far as suplexes go. So was that not enough for you?
It was good. I'm glad you reminded me of it. That was a very good moment, and you are right. Textbook. That was good. But he loses points because I still don't. What are the tones to his tattoos? What are the cow carcass heads? Is it a snake? Is it a Is it an eel? Like, I don't know what his deal is, and what is the vibe that fits to. People keep saying bikers, but like, wouldn't bikers have like metal shit? Like, what do they have carcasses on them for? That's hunter. That's country shit. No, like, I
I
don't.
mean, well, they kind of go hand in hand, the biker and country element at times, I would say. But yeah, no, you are right. The snake motif thing, it looks like one of them might be unfinished. I don't know if maybe he needs more work done on some of them a little bit, but either
He
way, I
needs
mean,
more work, brother. Yes.
but yes, no, I acknowledge too. Yes, the chest full of deer or antelope or whatever those are. It's a vibe, I mean, it's kind of like gothy. He's got the goth girlfriend or wife or whatever.
I
So
did see you keep saying the goth girlfriend, and I did see her in the crowd this time, and I was like, "Oh, that's the
there you
goth girl."
go.
That's her. But like, I envision when I think of like a biker, it's like, okay, imagine him with like a leather vest on or a jean jacket. Like, I just is this Garule's vibe? Are we
No,
serious, guys?
he's
Like,
like a metal guy. I mean, I think he's like a heavy metal dude because he's got a Misfits tattoo, I believe, too. So I mean, he's like punk metal. Like
he truly just
whatever.
looks like a plumber to me. I don't know if you put him in a boiler suit, like he'd look like Mario, would he not? Like, I don't know.
It tracks. It certainly does track. But either way, I mean, like I said, I thought the 30-27 was unfortunate because of the quality of this fight. I thought that Bareth did pretty good in this fight. Again, just a step behind pretty much all the way through, honestly. But this is how the sport is scored. So sadly, it's correct in this case. And, Garule did his thing. Whether or not you think he can continue to do his thing, that I guess goes to the greater point.
Well, I think it goes back to what I was saying about Garule and not really improving the product is because, in my opinion, he probably could have finished Dan. He probably could have finished Bareth because he was letting Bareth reset too much. If Garule, he was landing some good shots. Granted, they were both landing good shots on each other, but Garule should have been able to pop him up. Okay, he's resetting. Pop him up and then pop him up when he's trying to reset. Put the pace on him, not just be okay going 3 rounds decision where I'm going to win in the striking, but if I get cracked, I mean that's just how the game goes. I think I would just like to see more defensively sound, and of course, mixing in some stuff, bro. Like, I know you mixed in the suplex, I know you went for some takedowns, and you went for that sub attempt. The sub attempt was cool, but like, if the striking's going to be close, and I know 30-27, don't get me wrong, but again, this is a guy who not that great at the end of the day. I just good win. Just good win. Let me just leave it there.
I mean, it's all in service of getting better. So I understand the criticism. Hopefully, he can continue to improve and, stick around for longer. He fought like his job was dependent on it. He accomplished mission number one. But as always in this sport, this is the beginning of the road. It is not the end of the road. You saved yourself from the end of the road, but that does not equal being farther down the path. You are still at the beginning now. So you got a lot to continue to use as a springboard if you let it be one.
100%. Yeah.
All right. Good deal. Well, Talk about springboards over here. This was something else. This is Alice Ardolian versus Polyana Viana. I said, Alice starts fighting out of Orlando, brother. She pulls this off. I mean, that's a major hell yeah for me. I mean, Alice Ardolian literally pulling off a submission that has never been seen in the UFC before. I mean, I said that, I mean, we'll talk about all the elements of this fight, but just to not bury the lead here, I've only got a couple of submissions of the year on the list. This has to be on it. I mean, this is a wholly unique one to the UFC here that we just saw for the first time from Alice Ardolian of all people.
I have a friend who's Romanian, and anytime Alice fights, I always let her know, like, hey, the Romanian queen is ready to fight. She's gonna do some good. She's gonna make you guys proud. And when she got this one, typing it out really did sound crazy, but it's true. Alice Ardoyan from Romania just solidified herself as the first person to get this submission in the UFC history. And it's funny because you could see in her face, like, she's just like, I did it. I fucking pulled it off. It's like, who fucking knows what I really did? She even said she saw it in a fucking Instagram video or whatever, which is pretty funny. But the intricacies to this fight are very, very cool because our Alice had a good first round. The second round is where, I'm sorry. The second round is where it was getting interesting because Alice Ardoyan is in full guard. Polyana has her in the body triangle from bottom position, and she's got her locked up, and it's actually, she was doing, and listen, I don't say this often, she was doing one of the better jobs off her back, landing elbows and strikes that I think I've ever seen. And it was so good that she's fucking Alice up. Like, I was sitting here thinking, like, dude, if Alice don't figure this out, like, she's gonna lose the round to bottom control. It was so good. Alice was tied up in her, like, because she was squatting and her legs were all, she was in the anaconda's grip, whatever you want to say. And the ref is sitting here, Alice, come on, you got to do something. And it's like she tries to sit up, and it's like she literally can't fucking move. The one time that I would say you can't just stand up from jujitsu, I guess. I've seen plenty of people do it, but that one right there, she was legitimately stuck and actually under a decent amount of pressure from Polyana's guard. Elbows, strikes, and being able to hold on to Alice where she wasn't able to land anything back. I thought it was very great from Polyana until she decided to submit herself. I'm not saying that's exactly what she tried to do, but when you watch, and a lot of people have been quick to say this is what they learned what not to do on the first day of jujitsu. As a whatever belt, she should know that was the stupid thing to do. But I want to again, to set the record straight, what she was doing to start was very effective. She was going to win the round. So making a slip up like that, she probably thought, I'm cool. I'm flexible. I'm flexible, guys. Now, it was very stupid of her because all Alice had to do was literally just lift her leg and move her thigh on the outside of her foot and then just sit up. And it looked like it hurt a lot because Polly, it's funny because when you watch the replay, you see that it hurts immediately. And she tries, she starts striking back, like she starts punching, but then she's like, oh, fuck it. No, that's done, get that shit off me. But it is unfortunate because she was winning that round off her back, and then she
I mean,
just happened to submit herself. Go ahead.
fair. I mean, I think that maybe it's a little bit generous to say that she was like dominating off of her back, because I thought that Alice was correct in saying that, like, why would anybody body lock from the bottom? Because said that in the interview, and I was like, she makes a good point there. She was working off of her back for sure. I will definitely agree with that. But it's like
she could have been the champ if Mackenzie Dern,
fair. Yeah, it might be something to that, actually. Yeah, I'll give you that. I mean, this is actually also coming off of like some decent work from our Alice in that first round. Like you said, the first round was kind of solidly hers because Polyana seemed surprisingly comfortable on her feet in that first round. I said that's a poor decision against Alice, who loves to do that. And Alice actually looked like she leveled her own striking up a little bit. I don't know if it's just Fusion XL in Orlando that's been helping her with all this stuff, or if she's just turning a new leaf when it comes to the sport. But she looked surprisingly competent in this fight, like beyond just the submission, obviously. But like before, I've kind of, admittedly, I've classed her as sort of a little bit of a novelty. She's a TikTok influencer and all that, who seemed like she was dabbling in combat sports, but she looked like a pretty solid fighter in this fight, even going into the finishing sequence. So I at least wanted to get that out there. But she gets the open water takedown, and I was like sort of surprised because Polyana, wants that. So I was like, it seemed like there was almost a weird like reversal of things going on here. Like Polyana wanted to stay on the feet, and then Alice wanted the takedown. It just was strange. But then the whole sequence that you just described happened, and yeah, Alice even says, Pollyanna basically calf slicered herself. The technical term for what happened is a capsule lock. That is the submission.
I know this is a mixed martial arts promotion, but I am curious to who is the guy that they are gonna take the word for. When they get the headset and they're like, it's a capsule lock, say it on live TV for everybody to know that that's what that is. That's a lot of balls, man, to make that call because it's a submission that nobody we don't see this. They just had to make some shit up. He's like, it's a capsule lock, call it,
Well,
brother.
that's funny that you say that too, because the commentary was scrambling to try to figure out what it was. I think that Gooden said that an Indian deathlock, I think, is
Oh
one of the
my
ones he
god.
called. I was like, that's a crazy sounding submission, but calf slicer, this Indian deathlock thing. The capsule lock is the official title. I don't. It's a good question though. I mean, is that the commission based? I don't know. I don't know
Because it's
who's.
one, it's got to be one person. It's not like seven people give their opinion and they're like, all right, which one is it, guys? It's like one person says, that's what that is. Bruce, call it right now.
That's what we're going with. Exactly. Yeah. So it's a good question who actually is the one that makes that call. But what I wanted to say about the setup from Alice, because a lot of people thinking that, oh, Pollyanna just did this to herself. I think that there is some validity to that, perhaps. But Alice, if you go back and rewatch it, watching it twice, you see a little bit of the setup of it. And I give Alice a lot of credit for this because you see Alice because there was one time Alice is kind of posted up. Pollyanna has the lock in, and Pollyanna kind of lifts her own body forward. She's off of her own back and kind of striking with her legs wrapped around the waist of Alice. I'm like, she's obviously working off of her back, like in a decent way to making this more competitive. That's what you were talking about. Alice, to her credit, stretches her back out and kind of flattens her back to her back, pushes her, lengthwise across the mat to set this thing up. So, I mean, like having the foot trapped and then doing that and then the pullback, this was actually a really high level setup of this, even though it was a crazy submission that who even knew if it was going to work or not. Alice just, going with her instincts to try to make it happen. I think that overall, Alice should be getting a lot of credit for this. Like in the sequence of events, she actually did a really good job to make this happen.
I would like to believe that, I mean, and this is my personal opinion. Alice, whatever belt Pollyanna is, Alice just earned hers. She just got the blue belt or whatever. Like the fuck, she just takes her shit right off her.
It's
That's
like
how
it's like the
that's how it
rankings,
should
right?
be. She should take the fucking belt and rip it off the gi.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm saying it's like the rankings. It's like, you beat the guy at number 5, you become number 5, right? You beat the because I think Pollyanna is a black belt, I believe. I think they were talking about that. So Alice just earned herself a black belt. Congratulations.
The last thing that I want to note, which is interesting about this fight, is so Alice lands a clean punch to the eye of Pollyanna, and Polly does the whole timeout, like stop, and Alice stops. The ref's like, go, no, and then he does like the whole do the replay, but then he has to like actually step it. We had a lot of weird things going on, but that was the first one. She took a clean. It was probably the knuckle. It was probably like the knuckle, fair, but Alice is just a sniper, man. She gonna punch you in that face, girl. It's like, damn.
Yeah, and commentary said it during the main event, but super applicable here too. You are under no obligation to stop striking until that referee says stop. So, I mean, Alice, being kind of the nice girl that she is, she kind of hesitated, thinking that it might have been a poke, even though she probably knew it wasn't. So,
Mhm.
I mean, a little strange there, but you're right. I mean, you're not going to get saved off of these little gamesmanship things.
To be fair though, and I can't say this about many other eye pokes or eye punches or whatever. Viana did start bleeding from her eye. So I mean she's a pretty big Chad for her to just be like, all right, fuck it. I guess they're not gonna call it. And she did stand there and try to strike with her for a second. She Pollyanna, for what it is, and I talked about earlier, like a lot of these matchups weren't like the biggest names, of course, but the UFC knew what they were doing with some of these. They have Alice, who's the OnlyFans girl, and then you have Pollyanna, who's like the fucking gooner magnet or whatever. They knew that having this matchup was people were going to tune in for at least this. Let's see what we got. We got Alice and her big old fat butt. We got fucking Pollyanna and her tall legs. They go all the way up, guys. But either way, great fun time. it was an interesting way to end the fight, but I really do I really do like Alice, man. She's always been a fun fighter. She always will be for sure.
Yeah, no, and again, I mean, I never thought I'd see the day where Alice Ardalian is on the submission of the year contender list, but we have never seen a capsule lock pulled off in the UFC. I think that she is certainly qualified to be there now. So I have to say, tremendous work. And like I said, too, Alice really did seem like a complete fighter going into that sequence. It's not just this from this fight. Like, I'm always a person who wants to be accurately assessing these fights and these fighters. And when you show me that you are improving in certain ways, I acknowledge that. Alice is someone I was skeptical of. I thought she looked really, really good in this fight. So I'm very happy with this performance. And Alice is on the submission of the year potentials list at the moment. So interesting times we live in.
I love it.
I love it too. All right. Well, I don't know if I loved this one. This was an interesting one, perhaps, but I did say Mystic Chase predicts these things. Cody Brundage, he fought Andre Petroski, and true to Chase's word, he knocked him the fuck out.
It's just sometimes there's just certain fighters where you know that everything, it could be the worst fight ever. They could be 30-22, but in one moment they could win the fight for the dumbest reason, of course, you know.
You just described this fight.
Dude, so a lot of this card, and I haven't got into it yet. I think this is where we first start seeing it. A lot of this card is people idle, standing in front of each other, looking like they're gonna punch. They're not really setting up feints. They're not really doing much. They're one person walks back, one walks forward, the other one walks to the side, the other one walks to the other way. There was not a lot of action in this first round. Let me just say this, and I had never lost hope because Cody Brundage, not the greatest. You know, he is one of the fighters of all time, but I had known that he potentially could, get Petroski into a slug match, to look, and that's not exactly what he did, but he came out in the second round with the idea that I'm actually going to punch you this time, and we're not just going to walk around the cage, And Petroski apparently had no fucking idea that he could get punched because he got fucking folded to the fucking ground, and Cody Brundage, I mean, walks away with a fucking TKO victory. I'm not surprised. That's the problem. Is Petroski has let me down so many times that getting knocked out by Brundage is something that I totally could see valid for his career. Some people are above getting knocked out by Cody Brundage. Mansour Abdul Malik. In no world was he going to let Cody Brundage be the guy that takes him out. But Andre Petroski, from what I've seen from him, yeah, Cody Brundage is the exact type of dude that would fucking walk in and fucking knock him out.
No,
Like,
yeah,
dude,
you're exactly right, and that's why this was such a coin flip too. Is because Cody Brundage has also let me down in tremendous ways too. So it's like it could have been the opposite. Like I could have seen, in the multiverse, there are a number of versions of this where it goes the opposite way, and it's the same exact conversation about it. You know what I mean? Like Petroski could have been the one that got on the up. He just wasn't. So, I said exactly what you said. It was a slow start to this fight, point fighting each way, just a lot of stalking, as you were saying. We're going to go over here, we're going to go over here. And then I thought it was very funny. Cody Brundage gets silly. He jumps the gilly. It went nowhere. He lets Petroski get top control because of it. I'm like, galaxy brain maneuvers. This is the exact fight we're in for. This is what we expected. And then round two, Cody just catches him with the left hook. I'm like, yeah, sure, of course. Why not that be the case,
I know I've talked about him on maybe every episode since I've seen him fight and win, of course. But I think there's a new type of fighter, right? We have the McKinneys, right? The finishers, the guys who whatever. Wes Schultz really is somebody who is a pioneer in this game, really. Because Cody Brundage, I mean, he must have learned something where you do everything wrong. You do nothing right because when they expect you to do the wrong thing the next round, it's like, I've got you right where I want you.
Right. Well, when we zig, you zag,
So, like, I truly believe that Cody Brundage is, and it's not even just like Wes Schultz and his post fight speech. He's like, I just don't listen. That's why I'm here. I get it. I get it. So some fighters, they could have a coach, they could have a whole corner. It does not matter. They are in the fight them for themselves, and they are going to do whatever the fuck they want. And Cody Brundage just happens to decide that he punches people randomly when he's a fucking good wrestler who magically gets taken down by everybody. I don't get it. Like, I don't get it.
Yeah, I mean, he himself, I had it in the notes. This is a quote from Cody Brundage in his interview. 16th fight in the UFC. I've been here for 5 years and I'm still figuring this shit out. I said, yes, Cody, we know.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, it's in typical West Schultz 2.0 fashion. Yes, learning is not our thing. We don't learn. That's why we are in the cage, guys. Come on, get
And
with
well,
it.
and look, to his credit though, when he did get the left hook, Tyone gave Petrosky a lot of time to get back into this fight, and he just didn't. So, I mean, I got to give Cody Brundage that credit because my whole note coming into this fight was for whatever reason, again, 16th fight. DC even said during the interview, he's like, you just fought recently, or you fight very often. It's like almost to his detriment, it seemed. But in this time, unlike in the Dante Johnson fight, he actually had the stamina and the wherewithal and the all of the elements necessary. Granted, not a lot happened in that first round, so there was nothing to take the cardio away. But when the time to finish the fight came, Cody Brundage did in fact finish it. So credit where credit is due.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. It's like this dude, for no reason at all, has some sort of it is a little bit of aura, for there is something special about a fighter who can make any fighter, and this is anybody that goes in there with him, he can make them fight a different way than they're normally doing it. He can fuck some shit up, and that's all you really need out of a fighter sometimes is when you have great fighters who are going to be great later on, but you have somebody like Cody Brundage who could be thrown in the mix against them. He could show the holes in the game very early on because he will just do something that makes no absolute sense, and the other person has to rely on instincts only. It's like, what the fuck am I supposed to do in this moment? And Cody Brundage unfortunately has this ability to punch sometimes, and I knew that this was possible, and I'm glad that he made it look as goofy as it always does. Do nothing round one. Second round, I'll just act like nothing happened. Just nothing happened in that first round. I'll just knock him out, dispose of him quickly, and we'll just cry in the post fight speech. That's how we do it.
Yeah, and if it works, then congratulations. And when it does not work, you get all kinds of goofiness. So
You get a 12-9 record. Yeah.
yeah,
So
right, exactly. So and as I said coming into this fight before, on the predictions when we were talking about it, this was a clean win actually. So I mean, thankfully Cody Brundage has all of that wackiness in his career. This was actually clean. It was a down the line. You knock a guy out, you finish him, etc. This is how it's supposed to go. So hopefully this could be a turning point for Cody Brundage. It probably will not be.
no, they're gonna give him somebody else crazy, dude. I don't know who it's gonna be, man. Robert Valentine, god damn it. It's gotta be.
At middleweight, yeah, I mean, I guess it makes sense, right?
This is gonna be Jason Jackson's debut.
Nice. Okay, I like it. Love to see it if that happens. There you go. We'll see that could be an interesting fight in the making. They always are with Cody Brundage, except for this one.
I actually think it's welterweight that he is. This is middleweight. But either way, you get the point. Something like
Sure.
that.
All right. Well, either way, Cody Brundage gets the job done, and good on you, Cody. You finally did it.
The kid did it, man.
Exactly. Cody getting the win. 2026 is looking up. Another one that I thought was actually kind of a good thing in 2026 was this fight here, Ketlin Vieira versus Jacqueline Cavalcante. We talked a lot about this fight on the predictions, and I had sadly a lot of negative things to say about Cavalcante, not because I dislike her, but because we talk about fraud checks in the sport, and I'm not necessarily saying that Cavalcante is a fraud, but I am saying that I felt that her record did not reflect the quality of a fighter that she was. I felt that she had gotten a couple wins gifted to her and that she had not been tested to the appropriate level that she should be in the UFC. Finally, she gets tested in that way. Ketlin Vieira ends up getting the win. I thought that this was exactly what should have happened, and this was basically what we predicted happening.
This one was another one. Did I maybe hear, or maybe there was more? Did you say this was a good fight?
No, I did not say it was a good fight.
Okay.
I just said that it was what I thought was going to happen.
Okay, yeah, because this was another one where you have just idle stance switching and walking forward, not too much going on. Ketlin Vieira, she went in a post fight speech and she was like, I wanted to show that I'm a boxer, and I give it to you. You were striking, you were walking forward and not shooting as many takedowns. But I wouldn't sit here and be like, damn, she was fucking boxing the bloody head off. It wasn't crazy. It was not a crazy performance, but Cavalcante wasn't doing anything.
Well,
That's the key.
those two things. One, I did want to at least acknowledge that I thought that Vieira, when it came to the striking, her biggest asset and where I thought she actually did pretty well was in the counter striking. I thought that she actually like returned fire very well off of Cavalcante, who was not firing all that much to begin with. So even though it could have been a more competitive exchange if Cavalcante was giving her more, I wanted to acknowledge that Vieira, who is primarily a wrestler grappler, did have enough of the competency to use her counter striking to her advantage, because I think that's what set her apart in this fight. I did not hate this fight. I want to say just like, to be 100% honest, I know it was not the greatest fight, but I thought that for what Vieira was trying to do, which I always do not like when people go against their skill set to prove something to the world, I thought that at least if it was going to happen in a fight like this, she accomplished that mission.
It is what it is. We knew Vieira before this is not the glitz and glamour. She's not coming out here to make a spectacle. She has a consistent game. She can implement her game against many different people because she's more of the imposing figure in those fights. They normally have to conform to her game. She walks in, walks down the striker, and makes it really look easy, and it's not like it was like, oh, she whooped her. I mean, it was a close fight because neither of them were really taking it away, but Vieira really showed why she's been at the top of this division and why she is a good test for a lot of people who think that they're gonna be on their way to the belt at some point, because again, that belt is fucking tied up. So for right now, just go through fucking Vieira. Just see if you can beat her, because she's obviously not the greatest, but if you can beat her, I'll take it. I'll take it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, as I said about Cavalcante, this was the test at the higher level that we needed to see. And I was not confident that she was going to pass it. And this is exactly what you get. Her point fighting style could not keep up with Vieira, which is like, again, it's not even like she made it that I mean, at least in the first round, I thought Vieira was giving Cavalcante way too much respect. She made it a little bit dirtier in the later rounds, and that worked to her advantage. But earlier on, I mean, like, she was having minimal success, but so was Cavalcante having minimal success. And that throughout the course of this thing really proved to me, at least, that Cavalcante is a little bit one-dimensional. There were no adjustments throughout this fight until the very, very end when she turned up a little bit, but it was too little too late at that point. And also terrible cornering for Cavalcante as well. They told her to be more measured in that third round. I mean, I don't know if there may be translation issues or whatever. I don't know if that played a part, but they had said on commentary that, oh, she should be, that they said to be a little bit measured or whatever, that they said that she might have won those first two rounds. I thought that was a miscalculation. So I'm just saying, as the big picture for Cavalcante, this should also be a little bit of a wake-up call. Your point fighting is not going to work at the higher levels, and women's bantamweight of all fucking places where the bigger women play. And if your corner is saying that kind of stuff, you might want to question where their heads are at.
Portugal, man, what can you say? I mean, for somebody who wants to represent the region and probably have a team from that region or that also represents the region, I mean, there's a reason they're not the biggest in the sport. You gotta have a proven system first. And if you're out here telling her that she won 2-0 and she didn't, I mean, there's a reason that you guys are probably fucking lacking in the talent department right now. You're not getting the proper information across. If you don't know why you fucking lost the fight, I thought I won the first two rounds. That's the fucking problem. So
Yeah, and well,
whatever.
and to think that she won the second round after she got taken down and accepted the position just like Shauna Bannon did. I mean, like, that should that not be a wake up call for you and your team? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
whatever, man. Cavalcante, we always knew, she wasn't really all that, but it's unfortunate because Portugal would be nice for them to. I mean, she is a top ranked competitor, of course. She's doing the region well, but at the top of the game, I mean, she doesn't look like she has the answers for all facets of the game, of course. And against Vieira, her striking should have been able to shine against somebody like her. And Vieira didn't really take her down as much as she could have fucked her. She could have fucking wrestle fucked her if she really wanted to. She got her down one time out of the four and controlled her for four, close to 5 minutes. I mean, it might not have looked very pretty if she really wanted to. Again, this was more just like, I'm going to prove that I can strike with you. So
yeah,
it worked, I guess.
yeah, exactly, and it worked. And between her and Mario Pinto, Portugal needs a little bit of a come up here.
Yeah,
All right.
Manel
Well,
Cap, he'll come back soon.
true. Yeah, yeah. Gets Horiguchi. Ha. All right. Well, next up on the docket here, this is Tommy Gant versus Artur Minev. Tommy Gant certainly won this fight, but it was a little bit of an odd one before that. I thought this was a lot of clinching in this fight, most of which came from Tommy Gant. He clinched up Minev for a long time in this fight, even rounds one and for a lot of round two as well. Minev, I thought, showed some good get up game. Really, a lot of this fight was DC's wet dream with all of this wrestling, I thought.
DC is exactly the person that I wanted to bring up. Did you hear the commentary of him during this
Yeah,
fight?
if you ever thought that DC was biased in his commentary, Paul Felder made it very apparent that that is certainly true.
And that's my thing is like, why is he able to be a commentator on the fight card of a guy who has been sleeping at his house, quote unquote, during the fight camp? Like that, like I don't know. That's a little weird. If he can't be the tough coach and the commentator, why can't he be? Why can he be just the random coach and the commentator? I don't know. It's kind of weird. But what I will say is this fight I can't really tell you too much that I remember from it, but Artur Minev, I remember being a little impressed with him. For somebody who stepped into this 7-0, risked his undefeated record on short notice for the biggest opportunity in his career, for what it's worth, I think that he'll be fine. I think he'll be okay where he's at. He might even be a featherweight because he stepped up on short notice, so he might have just been able to make lightweight. Who knows? I think he might have something left for us to see. Tommy Gantz, on the other hand, yeah, I mean, he got the TKO after a while, but brother, 17 takedown attempts is fucking crazy on a dude on short notice. I mean, I get you're a wrestler, but I would have liked to see, because what I was thinking is like, I personally thought the TKO was the call because DC is going to know, like, you're a wrestler. If you're with DC, he knows how to build a legacy. You got to come in here and establish that you are a force on the feet. You can't just sub everybody because then they're not going to take you serious on the feet. If you come in here and you establish that you're somewhat of a competent striker, or you can actually finish people with your strikes, it's going to help you in the long run. So I'm glad that it ended up that way. But Tommy Gant didn't necessarily make me think that he's the next lightweight up just yet. Of course, I don't. I with short notice bouts like these, it's always kind of weird because we'll talk about one here in a little bit where it could literally be the guy off the street and he looks like shit and the other guy looks like fucking shit as well, or it could be a guy who's from a regional promotion who's really good and he doesn't look very bad, but then you also have a guy who doesn't maybe perform at the highest level we could. Like it too many things could be factors when it comes to fights that are just thrown together like this. So I want to say Tommy Gant has stuff left to prove in my eyes, but he got the win. They got him the TKO. I feel like it probably could have been stopped a lot earlier than it was. They gave Minev a pretty good amount of time to try to work through that, but yeah, he was done.
Yeah, this is definitely one of those Contender Series 2.0 fights for sure, based on the dynamics as you just laid out, being short notice, being guys who are not in the promotion already kind of thing. So hard to say, if this was the greatest showing that both of them could have had. I thought that Gant did some good work with his offense. He certainly was on the offensive a lot of this fight, hunting for engagement throughout. So he's really putting the pressure on Minev through a lot of this. And then, I mean, this really was another one long round kind of situation where it was Gant clinching him up, making Minev work, taking him down, Minev getting back to his feet. That's why I said his get up game was certainly good. Gant just sticky. I mean, just on his back for a lot of this and basically just chipped away at him until he sort of just folded. That was the one thing because he said, oh, Minev still has something to give. I'm not saying that this necessarily defines him by any stretch, but if you go back and watch the finish of this, the sequence that led to Gant getting back mount and just blasting those shots to the side of the head, there really wasn't much that like made Minev like go down. He just sort of like dropped and kind of accepted defeat is what it looked like. And I'm not trying to say that this guy is a quitter or anything like that. It just, it was hard for me to understand what I was like seeing from him at that moment. Cause there didn't seem to be an inciting like power shot or like, a credible takedown for like a sweep from the legs or anything. He kind of just went down. Gant takes the back and then it's just, headshots to both sides until he finally just wasn't able to continue on. And like you said, that was the other thing too, is that like they gave him the leeway, so it's like whatever there was, if you were needing to regen some energy, hard to do that when you're getting struck on both sides of the head, but at least he was given as much rope as he needed and just could not drag himself back into the fight. So I give Gant the credit here. He certainly got the job done. Minev showed some decent prowess early on in this round, but that finishing sequence just kind of left a weird question mark over this for me, and that's why I thought this was an odd fight.
Yeah, 100%. No, I just I need to see more. I feel like there was just too many things going on where I can't judge this one accurately. At least if I even if I did, if I judged this for what it was, I feel like it's not going to lead me with a good representation of what's coming for next, you know. So
Sure.
I'll be hesitant to believe that this is the next guy up, just because again, guy from outside the organization, short notice, training for a different guy, a lot of different things going on, and DC's his fucking coach. So we'll see how this fucking goes. But
Yeah, no, most definitely. Fine win for Gant in this one. We'll see if Manev comes back for another go at it in the UFC. But yeah, I agree with you. I think more information is definitely needed about Gant specifically. He was somebody that I was pretty high on coming into this because I saw him on the Contender Series and I remembered him from there. I was like, oh, that's a guy to watch out for. I'm going to need to see, more output, different looks. Striking is definitely, I need to see more of that, all that kind of stuff. So we'll see if, we'll judge off the next performance, but still 12-0, still undefeated. So, and then delivering the first loss to Manev, Manev O has gone.
100%, yeah, good win for sure.
Indeed. Better one than this one. Next up is Tuco Tokos versus Ivan Urslan. Round one of this fight said, man, okay, we got a banger on our hands here. Both guys getting rocked. This looked like it was, on trajectory to be one of those just all out barroom slugfest kind of fights. And sadly, then the rest of the fight happened. What'd you think of this one, Chase?
Well, the first thing that I want to ask you is if you remember me telling you why long hair or having your hair is a bad thing if you want to be great, and is because this performance right here, it shows it all. Tuco Tucos cannot, he came in with a fresh new look. He got drippy for this look, but he couldn't keep his fucking hands out of his hair. He has to keep fucking flipping it out. He has to keep fucking flipping it. He has to try to do all this while he's evading punches. It's like, brother, how about you punch him instead of doing your hand can you just if you need to move your hand, how about you just fucking throw it forward? This fight, the first round, sure, I'll give it to you. I was thinking as well, this might be fine. But the fact that this went two more rounds after that first round, and you had, because in the first round, it did look like they were decently ready to try to slug it out, like they were willing to knock each other out. But after the first round, you just did not see, you saw the hesitation from both of them, that they were just unwilling to just risk it, like they didn't want to put their chin on the line to beat the other guy. And that's exactly why we got two more rounds of not much happening. I would swear, like Ivan Urslan, I picked him to win, but I don't think that he really, I think he was still in the skating by mindset. After the first round, I think he was like, I got this. He's just going to walk that way. I'm going to walk towards him, but I'm not really going to try to step in there and kill this guy. I just didn't see it.
I mean, it could have been that. I think that both of them put a lot out in that first round. I think that Urslan
Fair.
did not expect to get the level of comeback from Tokos that he got, because I mean he rocked him pretty clean, and it looked like Tokos might have been going out in that first round, but Tokos somehow ends up regenning at least a little bit of energy, or not even regenning, but just digging deep for a little that was in there. Because he was wobbled when he was striking back, and then ends up, coming back and wobbling Urslan a little bit towards the end of that round. So I think that Tokos was definitely gassed after round one. I mean, round two, he comes in already gassed. 2 minutes in, he's dead bugging on his back after a failed takedown attempt. I'm like, oh, this is terrible body language. This is not looking good. So Urslan might have been skating by a little bit off of the knowledge that his opponent was, less cardio ready than he was, because he did do a lot of lay and pray in this fight, man. I mean, he was laying on top of Tokos for a lot of the second and third.
Mhm.
So, I mean, that does kind of track, but I think that both of these guys just are not really like 3-round fighters, to be perfectly honest, is what it seems like. And because of that, they just did not have enough in the tank in the big picture to make it the fight that they had in the first round throughout all three.
No, I definitely agree with that one. That's why I feel like it was unfortunate that they didn't really feel like they were willing to just, go for it. The last of my energy, I'm just going to go for it, and whatever happens, happens. And normally at the bigger weights, that's what you're really expecting. Like, all right, shit hit the fan. now just slug it out, you know? Like, we don't wanna see you wrestle for 15 fucking minutes because 'cause you're just fucking blobby and sweaty, and even Urslan laid up against him against the fucking cage, and the ref didn't do any of this little clap and shit, didn't even try to get him to fucking go. He just let him fucking do it because it's the Apex and the crowd's not on his fucking ass, you know? It it's unfortunate that this is the win that Ivan Urslan got, but it it is what he got the dub, man, whatever it is, you know? At the end of the day, it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, this is about the fight I was expecting out of these two. I mean, this was another one on the predictions that I was saying, like, I hate this fight, and it kind of turned out exactly as I was expecting it to, except Urslan won instead of Tokos. So, whatever, I'm not mad at not being correct about the prediction at all based on what we saw in this fight. You know, this is one that was a coin toss in my mind. Urslan gets the job done, quote unquote. Fine, whatever. I'll take that. Only other note I had about this was I thought it was kind of funny in the post fight when Urslan said, you know, this is a very important fight to me. You know, my wife back home is pregnant with our third child, and DC said, "Y'all are having triplets." No, no, DC, they're having the third. You know, no, yeah.
Yeah, as you would think he's never been on planet Earth sometimes, you know?
Yeah, he's got a just a funny way that his mind works, and you know, I find it endearing and funny. I know a lot of people hate it, but that was just a little moment of levity after this otherwise, you know, not great fight.
We're bringing on our 8th kid into this world. Holy shit!
Octoplet,
She's having 8 of them?
you married the Octomom?
Yeah, Jesus
Good lord.
Christ, yeah.
Either way, so that was that. Yeah, and you know, you did say about Tokos's hair. I mean, he does have a good head of hair, and I thought that John Gooden on broadcast made a good point. It's almost disrespectful to have that good a head of hair and then shave it all off and then regrow it. If you're gonna go shaved head and have a good head of hair, no problem, but you got to stay with it, and he did
Mhm.
not. So
Yeah.
you
Mm.
reap the benefits of that and the other way as well.
True.
All right. Well, next up, Nikolai Veretennikov versus Chaos Williams. Man, of all the fights for Chaos Williams to finally show up in, he picks Nikolai Veretennikov to make Veretennikov look like the fighter that I initially thought him to be, which is a crazy thing to me because Veretennikov tricked us into thinking that he was better. Now, granted, I will say though, this fight this was not like a he tricked us fight in like what actually happened because both of these guys came out swinging from the start of this thing. I thought that the setup of this was pretty good. This was two-way striking from the beginning of this fight. Both guys throwing with pretty impactful and intentional striking. So you know this was kind of one of those fights where one dude just kind of finds the shot, catches the other one. You know, they're trying to stay defensively sound while finding the openings and getting the offense going. It's a, you know, a high paced chess match to an extent. So I'm not too mad at that part of it. But again, I go back to the point of Veretennikov being someone I was always a little bit skeptical about, and of all people, Chaos Williams being the guy who actually proved that to be correct was certainly unexpected.
I am with you 100%. When it happened, I said, "Oh, man." That yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna say we were right. You were more right. We knew that Austin Vanderford is not anybody that's great, and for him to finish him on short notice. Granted, it was short notice for both of them. It was a weird-ish bout, but he came in and got 2 finishes after. You know, he or I'm sorry, he got a decision win against Prado, and then he got the finish against Nico Price. So I was believing in him a little bit. I was thinking maybe it was just a slight hiccup, but I mean, Chaos Williams for what it is, a quality striker. I think, in my opinion, at the end of the day, I was thinking Nikolai Veretennikov was gonna have a game plan. You know, he wants to be good. Let's not strike with the dude who doesn't get knocked out very much. I figured, let me say this. I'm not gonna say I know because I ain't seen it. I only saw him get manhandled by Austin Vanderford. I would assume that where this dude is from, he has some sort of grappling, wrestling in some manner, just a takedown of some sort, but evidently not. Evidently not, because he did not shoot on Chaos Williams. But like you said, he really just got caught, clipped, knocked down. Ref stepped in. I mean, there really wasn't much more to say. It wasn't even that bad. Like I didn't feel like mad, like oh man, Vera Tennikov, no. But like when you see it happen, it's like yeah, that tracks. That definitely
Yeah.
that adds up.
Well, and that's why, like, I was actually, like, wanting to make the point that this was not a bad fight. I thought that this was actually a pretty competitive fight, all things considered there. It's not like Veretennikov was not throwing. I mean, he certainly was trying in this fight. In fact, the one note that I did have was, when Williams finally did start to pick up the momentum and it started to shift in his favor, it was after he caught Veretennikov moving backwards. He actually used the momentum that they both were having to kind of crash into him against the side of the octagon, which, was the start of the ending sequence. I don't think that it necessarily was like the major impact from that did it, but like it was the one time that he actually was able to get Veretennikov to disengage, that he was having that success. And that I thought was like, okay, you stayed the course through heavy adversity to actually get him backing up. Then you capitalized on it with your own movement. Credit where credit is due. I mean, that, you had to be in the fight to make that happen. You could not have been backing up yourself to make that happen. So I think that Chaos Williams, like, this is one of those ones that if it's neck and neck, you have to be the guy that's going to say, I'm going to be the one step better. That's what happens when you do that. So I thought that sequence was definitely good. And then Chaos Williams definitely had the instincts to realize that Veretennikov was finishable at that point, because if you saw, from our perspective, at least, Veretennikov was on some shaky legs for a minute there. He was doing the chicken dance for a little minute. So,
Yeah.
Williams could have level changed. We literally were just talking about that on previous cards with the fight IQ. Fucking Mateusz Rąbecki, a guy who would have level changed in a situation like that. No, Chaos Williams said, "Look, this guy is out on his feet or close enough to it. I'm gonna make this fight my own. I'm gonna finish him off," and then he did. And I was like, that is exactly what should have happened. So credit to Chaos Williams on this one.
Absolutely. I agree.
Yeah.
Mm.
And Veretennikov, you're on notice, because I already was. You've been on notice for all of this time, but now I'm like, you're right back to where you started.
Yeah.
All right. Next up on the docket, then, if there's not too much else to talk about that last one, Timmy Kwamba versus Bernardo Sopai. This was another one that I thought was kind of similar, actually. Really, my first note was that a lot of the notes are the same for the Veretennikov and Williams fight as to this fight. Like, good, solid trades, nice combinations, and eventually one guy got caught. I think that the one thing I would say is that Sopai came into this fight putting a lot of pressure on Kwamba, which I thought showed a level of confidence that I wasn't necessarily expecting from him, purely off of his track record. I mean, this is a guy, we talk a lot about him being on the wrong side of the flying knee from Vinicius Oliveira. Lost another fight in there as well. I mean, like, if your self-confidence is shaken like that, sometimes these guys might play it a little bit closer to the vest, but he really went in there and said, I'm going to pressure Kwamba and make him actually have to stand with me. And he certainly achieved that until he finally got the finish.
So this one's interesting because this is where I was facing a lot of my issues on Paramount. This is where the optimizing my playback was happening. So I didn't get to experience majority of this live, but I am very happy to say that when I rewatched this, I have a little bit more respect for Timmy, and I picked Timmy, and I was very happy of what I'd seen of him at bantamweight, and knowing from what I had glimpsed in the live moment is like, all right, he got dropped, he got clipped, and he got submitted. Damn, that's harsh to see. But in all honesty, like you were saying, he wasn't looking horrible. He was fine. He was in there. He was in the fight. Sopai, he's fast. He's got power clearly and confidence, and he can switch stances. So he was doing a lot of good stuff here that Timmy, it just wasn't his night, and it's unfortunate because he did get clipped and he did get choked out or whatever. He got out of the sub in the first round at the end of the bell. He was able to get saved by the bell there. Second round, it was just really them shots, and he landed a lot. This is another fight where the referee gave him fucking a million seconds to fucking fight back, but they'll stop anything on the first fucking jab and other situations. But Sopai, I truly believe that the ref they were trying to get Timmy to be able to win this late because the amount of strikes that Sopai was landing on that ground sequence. I mean, for him not to have gassed out is pretty insane because he
Oh yeah.
threw every little short strike that he had in his arsenal. He threw it on the ground, and Timmy just didn't have enough. Eventually taps out, and really great performance from Bernardo because he was the favorite coming into this, and for a record in the UFC, that's not necessarily someone that I would say is the heavy favorite or anything. Vegas clearly knew something that I didn't because I thought Timmy was a fucking steal here, man.
No, I
Damn.
agree. I mean, yeah, you talk about the work on the ground after the left hook connected. He looked like a man possessed with those hammer fists. Like you talk about hand speed. I mean, like it looked like they sped up the tape when he was landing
Yeah.
those shots. It was just, I mean, Donkey Kong is an understatement, just banging away. I said the ref could have stopped it during that ground and pound as well. I don't know if that was as you described, but the ground and pound wasn't working, so Sapai transitioned to the sub, and that worked for him just as well. You're right. It is odd how some referees will allow that for a lot longer than other ones. It is at their discretion, whatever the case may be, the reasoning behind it. But it was impressive. I mean, again, another thing that, like you said, Sopai impressed me in this fight after kind of a rocky road in the organization, and that is also coming after round one where he almost finished the fight with the rear naked choke too. So I mean, this was an overall very good performance for him against Aquamba, who I also thought was a steal. I mean, we both picked the same on this fight.
I know we throw this around a little too much now these days, but he's got a little bit of Ilya Taporia to him, guys. I don't know. Sopai he's got the look and the hand speed, and it looks like he can crack too. I mean, I'm not saying he's flatlining people, but I think the skill set that he has, I don't know, guys. I kind of like Sopai a little bit. I'm not saying I never did, but I'm glad that he proved that he could, he can win against a very good prospect. So
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I mean, it might be a little bit of a stretch of a comparison only at this point, though. Go out there and continue to win. He's 13-3. I mean, like this is a fine record to continue to build upon. Go have a win streak now and make it so that that's an accurate comparison. I thought it was all pretty well laid out here, and again, Kwamba was not a sitting duck in this fight. I mean, he was landing a couple of decent shots early. I'd say that maybe the differential was certainly to Sopai's side. Obviously, you see the striking numbers are pretty significantly stacked in his direction, but it's not like Kwamba was just sitting there just taking shot after shot. He was trying to throw a couple and he had a good combination to start the second round. So I mean, this is a dude who was out there trying to win himself, and Sopai made it happen. And when you let him get his hand speed going, that's what really impressed me. If he can keep that level of speed and accuracy up, now I mean, obviously ground and pound's not necessarily where you need tremendous accuracy, but if he can pair that on the feet, with his overall game plan, I think that he could be pretty dangerous going forward.
hell yeah. And it's a lot better of a look that the only person that he's lost to in the organization has now moved out of this weight class. So that's good.
Yeah. Oh, was that his only loss?
Vinicius, yeah, pretty
Yeah.
sure.
I thought he had one more in there. Maybe I was wrong about that.
I think he beat Ricky Tercios or something. Yeah, so he's lost to Vinicius Oliveira and then beat Ricky Tercios. Yep.
Okay. Sorry. Then I misspoke earlier. Then, yeah, then look, a flying knee knockout should not be the thing that shouldn't be the thing that defines you by any stretch. He got caught with a flying knee, an unusual move in the grand scheme of things. Be a little bit more defensively aware, perhaps against craftier guys. If that's the note, then fine. But if you saw what he can do against Timmy Kwamba, who's a pretty good up and comer himself, I think that this Sopai might be doing it big for Armenia, or excuse me,
Hell yeah.
Albania. Albania.
Yes, yes, Albania.
Yes, the greatest flag of all flags, by the
The
way.
flag is sick.
It's the hardest flag on the
Mm.
planet. I love it. All right. Well, that is that fight. Let's move on to this fight. This was Modestas Bukauskas versus Christian Edwards. This was a catchweight fight due to Hidalgo Bellato pulling out. And I said this guy, Modestas Bukauskas, really went to split decision with a random debuting fighter on short notice. However, this should not have been a split decision. I think that this was a little bit ridiculous that this was a split decision in the first place.
I agree split decision is very, very generous. I agree that Modestus is probably one of my least favorite fighters because of shit like this. I had people genuinely saying that Christian Edwards is he's good. He's good. I mean, he can compete at this level. Like
What were they basing it on?
this fight right here, brother.
Oh, they were basing, so they saw this fight and said Christian Edwards looked really good in this fight. He should be a guy to keep your eye on.
Yeah, I hope it was satire, brother. But
Ah,
I don't know, but yeah, there. I mean, this is by far Modestus Bukauskas, and I'm trying to be as nice as possible because I could say it in many different ways, but he at times is one of the bro, he would get Christian Edwards. He had him like rocked at one point because that's like the only thing that happened. And then he bum rushes him and holds him up against the fucking cage. And the biggest problem that I have with this is, it's one thing you're cage clinching and you're looking for elbows, you're getting some knees. He's holding bro up against the cage, looking around with like the look on his face, like he's fucking terrified of fighting. Like, and that's what pisses me off. It's like Modestus Bukauskas. You have a guy who walked in here on 2 days fucking notice or whatever. You're a guy who has knocked out plenty of people in your life, but all of the sudden you land 36 significant strikes while in the midst of holding him up against the cage and looking like you're terrified of fighting. Like it made me so mad. Like, bro, England, you guys gotta. There's no more Lithuanians that can train over there. I'm serious, bro. This dude makes you guys look so fucking bad because he has no fucking urgency to win fights by finish. How has he ever done it? I've seen him fight people and he literally just fucking stands there. This is another fight where you have two dudes who just idly walk towards each other. The other one walks away. One walks this direction, one follows him. There's nothing that went on in this fight that was of substance except the time that I looked at Modestus holding him against the cage and I said, why does he look terrified? And he's winning the fight. Like,
Well, I mean, this goes back to the note that I made about Chaos Williams and the Veritenikov fight. I mean, this was a low fight IQ moment here. And also the thing with this too, Modestus hurts Christian in round 2, then goes into the clinch. They break the clinch. He hurts him again and clinches again. So you had 2 of the same sequence. I said, what the fuck is this fight IQ right now? Then DC asks him about it in the interview, and Modestus is like, yeah, just sometimes things happen in a fight. That was a mistake on my part. Brother, you are 20-7 now. You have fought many, many times. You were, again, I bring it up often because it's really like aging very poorly at this point. You were my most improved fighter or biggest stock raise of the year on our wrap up show last year. Where is your awareness in a fight? I mean, like, again, and also in a fight like this, round 1 was Edwards clinching him up the entire round. You should have known at that point that if you can get a little distance, he took round 1 off of minimal kicking. I mean, like, that's where I gave him round 1, just off of a couple of decent solid kicks. Strictly off of that damage is why I gave him that round. So if that is what round 1 was like, and you have him hurt in round 2, I don't necessarily know if he looked, terrified or whatever. I mean, like, fair if that's what you saw. But my point is, regardless of that, should you not have known that this was a finishable fight at that point? Like, I mean, all of those elements should have led you to at least attempting to go for the finish. And he solidly did not do this. Again, I brought up Mateusz Rambecki before. Similar fight IQ problems here is what it felt like to me. And then Edwards ends up getting round 3 where it's nothing happens and he's cage cuddling the entire time. Modestus, you allowed that to happen. That is, you went to a split decision based on your poor fight navigation, and that should be the takeaway from this. It's really very crazy to think, like, and again, this is a debuting fighter on short notice. This should not be the case for a guy whose record was 19-7 coming into this fight.
yeah, no, I agree with Johnny the God. I mean, he's so frustrating. Like, Modestus is one of the bro. I mean, I really just have nothing left to say. I mean, seeing something like this, seeing them give a split decision, it really should amplify the idea that this dude he's just not that good. He's never really gonna be. Bellato probably would have beat this dude, guys. Like, and that should show you right now. Like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, and Modestus is one of those when going for the deep pulls goes wrong on my part when it comes to the biggest stock raises, because just as quickly as your stock can raise, he'll probably be on the other side of that list. Biggest stock drops when it comes to the year-end wrap up this year, because I mean, this is now coming off of the Nikita Krylov loss. This is now this performance here. I mean, bro, like, you had the ability to be mounting a come up after a career that had already been multiple fights in. This should not be the conversation whatsoever. The only other note that I did have was that the one fighter, or excuse me, the one judge, pardon me, the judge who gave it to Edwards was Junichiro Kamijo. That dude must really love hugging. So I mean, like, just be aware, because I know that, Chase, you keep track of these judges and their decision making at times. That's the note for Junichiro Kamicho. This dude will give a split decision, or give the decision to a guy who literally just holds you against the cage for the entire time. And that goes back to our point about taking into consideration takedown defense, which is not one of the metrics right now. So always be aware if Junichiro Kamicho is one of those judges, know that something like this could end up being a split decision when it should not be.
Hell yeah. No, yeah, that dude's I don't know what he's on, but to be fair, I wouldn't have listen, if they would have robbed Modestus somehow, some way, I can't tell you I would have been too mad. That dude deserves to fucking lose a fight for doing shit like this, bro.
And I mean, it really does go to that point. Like, look, if it would not have been right, but you really have no one to blame but yourself in that situation because you had every opportunity to outright win. Why they always say, don't let it go to the judges. This fight right here is the exact reason, bro. You skated by off of one scorecard when you could have just won and there have been no questions asked. Should
Yeah,
not be the case.
100%. It's crazy.
It is crazy.
Thankfully,
Not
it's over though.
Yes. Well, it's over for that fight, but equally as crazy to a lot of people is this next fight. And this is a lot of conversation going on around this one. So I'm interested to hear your thoughts here. This is, of course, Malcolm Wellmaker versus Juan Diaz. Gooden at the start of this fight said Malcolm was quote unquote keen to show his evolution in this fight after the Ethan Ewing fight. I said, "Welp, I don't know if evolution is exactly what we saw here. We certainly saw something, and it seemed like a lot of holes in the Wellmaker game that are making it so that a lot of people are losing a lot of faith in Malcolm."
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, losing faith is really just the start of it. I mean, I'm here for Malcolm. I'm not going to be one of these guys that jump ship because from what I saw, this was clearly this was just a confidence thing, I would say, because Malcolm didn't make the wrong choices. He didn't make the right choices. He basically just did nothing on the feet. His main weapon, which is his striking, did not utilize it at all. Did not throw teep kicks very much, didn't throw body kicks, didn't set up the left hook, didn't do anything. And that's really credit to Juan Diaz, to be fair, who is one of my favorite archetypes out of the Contender Series. Latino guy with a bunch of experience, and he's ready to fucking prove himself because he came in here. I mean, to be fair, looking at these striking numbers, like it kind of feels like there was a lot more happening on Juan Diaz's side compared to Malcolm Wellmaker, and the strikes are as close as they ever are. It's weird, but Juan Diaz really did a lot of impressive things when it came to baiting Malcolm into thinking that shit was sweet, man. Because second round he gets him down, he takes him down and fucking chokes him out. And that's the worst part of it all is because he takes him down so easily. And Malcolm in the first round was doing a good job of, not letting the threats on the submission be there. He's sitting up against the cage. He's able to get back to his feet once or twice. But then in the second round, he gets taken down and he gets taken advantage of. That's really the saddest part about it because he gets choked out. And this is the worst part. It's like he just tapped. I mean, it wasn't like he tried to get out of it, but once he knew he couldn't, I mean, that was it for Malcolm Wellmaker, man. I feel bad for saying it, but like it was really not that crazy of a performance from Juan Diaz. I mean, it was very textbook for somebody who has a lot of experience, who knew that they had a big opportunity on their hand, and to get him a submission win, I mean, that's really big. But I think this is more on Malcolm Wellmaker not doing anything that would lead you to believe that he was going to win the fight. But the thing is like he always had that opportunity. Like, oh, if he lands that left hook, then the fight can change. But if he's not throwing out the hook, I mean, nothing's changing. Shit,
Yeah,
man.
got to be in
Fuck.
it to win it. Yeah, no, that was the big overarching note is just Wellmaker seemed very hesitant to throw throughout this entire fight. I want to say that this almost feels a little bit like a self-fulfilling prophecy if Wellmaker was that concerned about the takedown. However, I mean, maybe I don't remember the Contender Series fight well enough. Did Diaz show us like a ton of high level wrestling on that fight? I mean, it didn't feel like it, at least in my recollection. Maybe I'm, like I said, maybe I've got holes in my remembrance of it. But either way, I mean, like, to allow the amount of respect that Wellmaker was giving this guy, who was coming out very aggressively. I mean, like Diaz, to his credit, he wanted this win. You could tell that from the very beginning here. Like you said, an opportunity in front of him, he was taking it. The wrestling was very nice throughout all of this in round one and then into the sequence that ended it. Mat returns looked good, nice transitions and control. I said, this guy is as he said himself in the post fight, well-rounded fighter is what it seems like to me. I mean, I need to see a little bit more of his like prolonged striking, I would say, based on what we saw. Obviously, a spinning elbow knockout, not going to give you the full impression of what his overall striking game looks like. But what I saw in this fight, I mean, like, at least as far as the ground game goes and the wrestling to back it up to get him to the ground, is like he was doing the damn work here. I thought that Malcolm navigated the wrestling in round one decently, but never overtook. And it's like, if you're not going to throw your hands and you're worried about the wrestling, then you get into the wrestling sequences and you can't overtake in those sequences. I felt like maybe he was in a little too in his own head. And I think kind of what you said, maybe a confidence issue, maybe overthinking things a little too much. But this is a fight, bro. You don't have that time to, to be in there to going through the X's and O's. It's just you gotta have that instinct to navigate those sequences and be effective. And unfortunately, he was not. Of course, I also do want to talk about our one instance of refereeing oddness here. There was the illegal knee or lack of a legal knee. We can talk about that in a minute here. But overall, just to finish my thoughts on Diaz, when you allow the runway that you gave him, and he's taking it as seriously as he was, this sadly was an inevitable outcome. And as I said, it could have been a self-fulfilling prophecy if you were just that in your own head. That's what you get out of this. And Diaz looked tremendous with all of his wrestling and the eventual submission. So I got to give him a lot of credit there. And if it is all on Wellmaker's side, the only other note I had, and I will allow for this if Diaz proves it, is that Ethan Ewing is one of the best prospects that we have at bantamweight right now. If Juan Diaz also becomes one of the best bantamweights that we have, then this could have just been very, very poor luck for Malcolm Wellmaker. But I'm going to need to see that until I give him that credit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I definitely agree. But to your point, I do want to bring up the illegal knee because you're right.
Sure.
There is a weird issue that these people who are at the UFC promotion, who are watching the replay, I don't think that these people are able to distinguish what shoulders are versus neck, because your shoulders end where your neck begins. He knees him directly in the neck, and they're like, no, but it hit his shoulder, and if it bounces up and hits his head, then it's like, bro, he kneed him not in the fucking shoulder. Throat strikes and neck punches are illegal. He knees him in the fucking throat, brother. Like,
Well, see, I guess that's where the controversy comes. I mean, like, did it not land directly here? Did it land here? You know what I
no,
mean? Like, where it like
listen.
questionable to me, at least. I mean, like this, and this is where it kind of gets. Let me just describe. I'll read my notes off, and we can talk it through, just so for anybody who didn't see what we're talking about here. So, right hand drops Wellmaker. That's a big note of all of this. Remember that this all started because Malcolm Wellmaker got dropped. So I don't want that to be like not part of this conversation. But so the right hand drops Wellmaker before the end of round one. Diaz goes in for a knee, which landed where it looked like on his shoulder. You're saying on the neck. We'll talk about that part of it. Time is called with 1 second left in the round. Interesting element of it. They had to restart with 1 second left, but whatever. Malcolm was actively moving upwards to grab the waist when the knee lands, which to me looked like it landed on the body. Again, we'll talk about the placement. I personally didn't see a problem with the placement based on the replay, but it is hard to tell with the angles that we had. So referee tells Diaz it was a reckless throw. My note to this was, so what? As John Gooden said, if it's a legal strike, it's a legal strike. Keep your conjecture about how close it was to getting into the danger zone to yourself, referee. That's not your call to make, whether it was reckless or not. If it's legal, it's legal. If it's not, it's not. Then DC talked about the incidental contact to the head and neck. There is an actual conversation about that, I suppose, in there, but the initial contact took precedent in this case, I would say. Broader conversation can be had. So anyway, that's what happened. So Chase, go ahead and based on that, you're saying that you thought it was the neck.
Oh yeah, no, it was definitely neck, and and even if it wasn't, I mean, he was aiming for his neck. I mean, so, and that's really where it comes down to, is his intention was to land an illegal move, and whether it's the same thing with Melissa Gatto. Or not, Dione Barbosa. She tried to play the game. She tried to get it right when she could, and that's where the gray area is. It was legal, and then it wasn't. Same thing happened here. He took a shot. I don't mind stuff like this because, like, as a fighter, you're trying to win the fight as however you can. Sometimes, if I gotta knee him, I gotta knee him. I'm not really thinking all too much
Yeah,
about the
and we were
stipulations.
yeah, we were literally just talking about Diaz being so locked in this fight that it's
Yeah,
like, he was just kinda in the zone. So, I mean, like, and does it excuse an illegal strike? No, it does not, of course, but I'm just saying, like, at least the understanding of that is certainly I get that.
yeah, but, so I Diaz was trying to win the fight, and he definitely did. He ended up getting the sub, and Malcolm Wellmaker just let a lot of people down, and a lot of people are not going to root for him ever again. They're going to say this is the biggest fraud check ever. This is a fraud. Blah 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 blah. But I'm here to say, guys, Malcolm Wellmaker, I'll believe in him until the day I die. God damn it, let's do it.
No, look, I also want to believe in Malcolm Wellmaker, but I think that this fight here needs, I've been saying wake up call a whole lot on this episode. This possibly the biggest of them all. It's like, brother, like, that there is something that you need to work on. Power is not an issue for you, Malcolm. We know that you have
Mm,
knockout power in your hands. Your striking is good. Your footwork is pretty good as well. All of the boxing elements, you can let those sit for just a little bit. You need to be drilling. You need to go Piotr Jan. You need to be drilling the one thing that you were weak at right now until your next fight. And do not let yourself get into a Joaquin Buckley situation where apparently you're training it for an entire year and then none of it comes out in the fight. Whatever the case may be, the point is that you showed glaring holes here, mostly in that one area, but also, if we're speculating and we are correct, a little bit of the mental game as well. And,
mhm.
and I'm not saying that he's mentally weak or anything like that. Don't think he needs a sports psychologist based on this or anything like that. I'm saying you need to develop the confidence as a fighter to know that you have the skill set to counteract whatever is coming your way and be effective in all of those areas. And if it is a hole in the wrestling and grappling area, that needs to be taken care of immediately so that you can be the fighter that you already have proven to be and that we can have that confidence in, because if you are allowing this type of performance to happen and this is the crowd reaction, it's not going to get any better. And fucking bantamweight, where you've got Umar Nurmagomedov. I mean, like, you got so many guys who pulled the same style, dude. You're going to get ragdolled all over the place if you are in your head even a little bit in the fight. So just those adjustments need to happen very quickly, because I also want to still be on the Wellmaker train.
Yeah, 100%. It's gonna be a tough climb back though, Malcolm. Figure it out, brother, please.
Yeah, you got to. I mean, like, and look, somebody had said might be time to change camps. I'm not the one who's going to make that call for you, but if you are already topped out leveled with your striking, at least take the option to go train around a little bit. Find a gym that that can cater to the specific needs that you have. Fuck 2-3 years in Dagestan and forget, brother. I mean, if that's what it takes, you know what I'm saying?
True.
So
100%.
all right. Best of luck to Malcolm. And I mean, and just to finish it up, Juan Diaz, looking forward to seeing him fight again. If he fights with that same level of intensity, could be a good prospect.
No, I will say I was skeptical and I was hating, saying he probably wouldn't have been in the UFC if he wouldn't have landed that spinning elbow. But I would like to say that that would have been the wrong call by the organization. That he deserves to be here. The skills he's shown, the aggression, the he's good. I appreciate him.
Yeah. Show me a prolonged combination on the feet, and I'm sold.
Cool.
All right. That takes us to our co-main event of the evening. Duho Choi versus Daniel Santos. Super boy Choi in this bitch. I was so happy with this fight. However, I will certainly caveat that by saying Duho Choi trusts his chin like nobody's business, because this dude, Daniel Santos, was spamming crazy power shots throughout the first round of this fight. And Choi was just navigating, tanking damage, and soldiering on. I didn't watch this live. I watched it on the rewatch. And, this was one that unfortunately was spoiled for me. I really wish it hadn't have been, because I would have been very nervous watching round one.
This was a pretty good scrap. I mean, I will agree with you when it comes to Doohoo Choi. That was the thing that I can see why this dude has fans. I mean, to be in a fight is one thing, to be composed is another thing. But to just look like you are just having like, bro, he's just in there. He's just having a good time. Like he did, like you said, he was in the military, correct?
Yes, he had been conscripted to the military. That took him out of competition for a while.
I believe it. This dude, he carries himself like a guy who really he just doesn't have shit to lose, you know? Like, and it's not like a in a bad way, like he's at the, rock bottom. It's like he's content with where he's at. He just loves to fight. He just wants to be here and have a good time. And you're right, he trusts his chin a lot. Daniel Santos, I mean, fuck, this guy threw about 17 wheel kicks that did not come close to landing to Doo Ho Choi's chin, but thankfully he didn't have to test his chin against those ones. But this was I mean, it says it made it to round two, but this was just a this was one long encounter from what it felt like. You know, these dudes went for it. Doohu Choi striking is as crisp as they come. I mean, I would hate to have a gun jam and this dude is walking up on me in the fucking like, brother. Oh my goodness, you know. So like, he really did showcase very lethal striking, very effective striking, mixing up, going to the body. I mean, obviously the way that he finished with the body shot right to the liver, you heard this big old thud, and it sat Santos down. But the thing the when you watch Doohu Choi and you are understanding of the type of fighter that he is like you said, he trusts his chin just way too much. If Daniel Santos was maybe a step above where he is, where he wasn't the type of fighter that just threw everything, and by everything I mean all of the shots that are unlikely and improbable. He throws all of those out in the first round to where he has nothing left in the second round except the technical stuff that he maybe has, but it just doesn't work because he's so fucking tired. You know, Doohu Choi just, I mean, he just gracefully picked him apart, really. And at the end of the day, you know, those that last combination, you know, that sat him down with the body shot it was crazy. Doohu Choi is really fun, man. I really appreciate this guy.
Yeah, he's one of my favorites for a reason. I said that, DC was correct, like you alluded to. There was no way that Santos wouldn't gas throwing the way he was throwing. I mean, like you said too. I mean, really, a lot of the unprobable shots were the ones that he just was very content to keep going back to. I was like, it's certainly fun to look at, but as far as actual like being able to make that last for 3 rounds, there was no way that that was going to happen. Took round one definitively, though. I mean, the amount of power and the volume of his striking would have overwhelmed and defeated a lesser fighter very easily. So that, again, credit to Doo Ho Choi there. Of course, round two, certainly gas. I'd say that that's the only differentiation between the rounds. You say, this is like a long sequence, but that break, he came out with a little bit of pop in the very, very beginning, like the first combination that he threw Santos in that second round. But after that, it was slowing down significantly, going into the clinch to try to regen a little bit. Choi, he navigates all of that. He's a pro with that shit. So Choi basically incrementally made his way into this fight. I felt, I mean, like he had some nice precision striking early, but so there was so much volume coming at him that it was like just navigating all of that to get himself through it. But then over time, especially after Santos started to slow down, he just chipped away. And then, like you said, body shot knockout. You see it from kicks, you see it from knees. You rarely see it from the hands at the UFC level, but that is the power of Doo Ho Choi. And again, like I said, one of my favorites for a reason. My only note is please don't disappear again, Doo Ho Choi. Please be active, my guy. Like, come back and stay back, dude, because I love watching this guy fight.
Yeah, no, listen, he's fun, and I can see why. He's a Hall of Famer, of course. So I appreciate him. Listen, I've said this before. Korean guys, when they're strikers, which majority of them they are, they fight like it's nobody's business. They are fighting like they are literally going to die after the fight. And if they don't fight their hardest, then they don't get to go to the good place. I don't know, but these guys are doing some great stuff out there. And Doohu Choi is just another one that I get to add to the list.
And we literally have a dude who his nickname is Yu Jitsu, Su Young Yu,
True.
who does not use any jujitsu. He literally
True.
is just a striker who has an incongruous nickname because he loves to strike so much. So yeah, Korean strikers definitely in sort of a world of their own at times. And I say that Doo Ho Choi is kind of a pioneer of it to an extent because he was one of the earlier ones doing it. And like you said, Hall of Famer off of it. The only other last note that I have is that he called out Patricio Pitbull. I thought that was a little bit of a weak call out, but
Mm.
if he wants to go out and annihilate Pitbull, I'd be certainly happy to see that.
You know, he must know something that we don't, because that's kind of, I mean, he is upper in the ranks, yes, but for Doohu Choi to call him out specifically, that kind of seems like he knows something we don't, you know? Maybe there's some beef somehow, some way.
Could be, or just know that like the volume that he possesses. If like, I mean, because Pitbull is not going to put that pace on him whatsoever. So if he thinks, okay, I can just come out here and have my incremental increase of volume throughout the fight, and maybe just kind of walk my way into the rankings, then so be it, right? I mean, where's Pitbull at this point? Probably like 10 or
Uh,
something.
Yeah, probably. I was gonna
somewhere in that range.
I was gonna say the unfortunate thing is that Cub Swanson retired, man. We coulda got the rematch, like, damn.
I don't think Cub could have. I don't think Cub could have withstand this anymore, man. I think that Duho Choi is the right guy in the right place right now, and I, like I said, just stay active, please, because I
Mhm.
really I want to see good things for him. I've been a fan for a long time.
Hell yeah.
And that was a very nice co-main event. So let's get into the main event of the evening. Of course, Arnold Allen versus Melchizael Costa. Uh, what can you say, man? I mean, Arnold Allen kind of, I guess, proven to the world that he is still that guy at this level, or is it Melchizael Costa just did not show up with the tool bag for this fight? Because this did not seem like the Melchizael Costa that we have seen finishing other fighters, going in with crazy power and getting a lot of like great connections off. It seemed like Costa was just off in this fight to a lot of an extent. And round over round, again, like I said, I did not watch this live. I watched it on the replay. So I'm sitting there, kind of compartmentalizing each round. And I'm like, round one for Allen, round two for Allen, round three. I'm like, when does Melchizael Costa become Melky here? Like, what happened to the Dalmatian?
So, I would first like to apologize to Arnold Allen because I specifically said that I just don't believe that he has the tools to beat Melky. And he did. He had the tools. He did it for 5 rounds, not didn't even break a sweat really. There's one main, and I'm not trying to use this as a thing to take away from Arnold Allen because I personally don't southpaw orthodox. I don't really take too much into account of that stuff. But if you are one of these people, Melky, the other loss that he has in the UFC, he lost to Steve Garcia, who is a southpaw, I'm pretty sure, and got knocked out by him. Arnold Allen is a southpaw, and none of the shots that Melky was landing on any of his other opponents who were not southpaws did not land this time. If you actually remember the way that he landed the kick on Dan Ige as he spun the opposite direction to catch Dan Ige blocking this way and he kicks him right this way. He whiffed all the kicks this time because Arnold Allen's on the opposite side of him. All he has to do is just step this way. Like it is very unfortunate that Melky didn't look like he had the way to beat Arnold Allen this night. But what I will say is that I never lost hope, and it never in my mind it never. But I never truly believed that Melky couldn't win until the end. He was doing things that I think just weren't working tonight, but I think in any other instance, some of these things they could have worked. So, for instance, because he was having moments where he was starting to build a comeback, and then Arnold would just take him down. Like he was having moments. There was this one specific moment. Um, uh, at the end of the fight specifically, there was like fucking 5 seconds left, and Melky rolls over and tries to get like a fucking toe hold or something. I was still believing that something was possible even at that point, but there was in the fourth and fifth round, Melky was getting to his back and he's laying there, and Arnold is kicking his legs or whatever. Melky is doing this kick, right? So as soon as Arnold is gonna plant on one foot and try to kick him, Melky puts both of his feet forward and tries to like kick his foot from under him, and it obviously didn't work. But in my mind, he was still looking for if he would have connected somehow, he might have been able to fuck Arnold's knee up like really bad. If he could just like literally donkey kicked him from, as hard as he can. If it landed, sure, I was believing it. This is how delusional and copious I was being.
I was gonna say, because you're sounding real copy right now.
But at the end of the day, Arnold Allen just proved that he's the better fighter. I mean, that's all it has to be at any given moment. Somebody's got to be the better man. And Melky, if you want to believe it's the stance thing, if you want to believe that it was just not his night, I personally, I, it just wasn't his night. I'm not going to say that he was off or he just didn't. He was still looking as threatening as I feel like I've seen it. He was still in his mind, what I'm going to do is going to finish the fight kind of deal. And I believed in him. When I saw it, I was believing it. It didn't happen. And I can hang my hat on that this was not the worst fraud check kind of fifth round, 5 round experience where we get just completely shut out. It wasn't the worst. Patty got his ass whooped. Vinicius Oliveira got choked out early. Anybody else that you want to fucking talk about that got their 5 round opportunity and then shit the fucking bed, of course. Melky, I still think that there's some stuff here, but do you want to just think that Arnold Allen is just that good? That Melky is him losing to him is okay because Arnold is that good? I don't know, man. It's a hard one to call.
No,
Fuck.
that literally is one of the notes. Can't tell if this was Arnold Allen greatness or Melky Costa showing his lack of eliteness. But either way, I mean, is Arnold Allen elite? You know what I mean? I wouldn't necessarily class him there either. So hard to say. I said, I don't know if this was Mel, because we do have to take into consideration the fact that Acosta did get dropped at the minute mark of this fight. I mean, he got dropped
Mhm.
early in this fight. Not a great start. Do you put that into the equation? Don't know if the compromising element of that had anything to do with anything, or maybe discouraging as well. I mean, Arnold Allen was like really locked in from the beginning of this thing, and might have been a little bit of Melky Costa being like, this isn't working, this isn't working. Like, what do I have to do? That kind of like throwing your hands up and wondering like where the actual openings are. Could have been a number of different things. I'm not necessarily, trying to shit on Melky in this fight, because Arnold Allen really was locked in, but Arnold Allen did not finish a 5-round fight. This thing went the entire 25 minutes. So you had a lot of opportunities and a lot of times to find those openings. The one note that I had to that is that every time that Costa had a moment, Allen would give him return fire and even the score. So you got to give him credit for that too. But it's like, I don't think that this was like a needle mover fight for that reason for either of these guys in a weird way. I mean, maybe for Arnold Allen just to be like, yeah, remember I can still, do what I can still win a fight. I can still do this. I got a little too, reckless, I guess he said, or he is having too much fun in the John Silva fight, whatever he was saying about that. It's like, okay, dude, yes, you can still win a fight. You can win a 5-rounder. That's great. You still went all 5 rounds. It was a lot of volume striking. The accuracy I was certainly impressed with. I mean, there was a lot of things to be impressed with Arnold Allen in this fight, but like killer instinct, go out there, finish the fight, be dominant. I did not see that in this fight. And then Melky Costa on the other side, having to constantly claw his way back into a fight after, falling behind every round. It just equaled up to like kind of a wash to me in a way. And I mean, I'm not
Mhm.
trying to take away from either of these guys. I think both of them have good credits to their name, but like, what is my takeaway, I guess, from this fight? You know what I mean? Like, that's what I'm like looking for. And I don't really get too much out of this. So I don't know what I'm supposed to say.
Yeah, the thing that I would say is that you should just be grateful that Melky Costa is gonna go back to being. I mean, because he was a dog in this fight. This dude is never going to be a favorite for as long as I live. So just keep racking up your free money because he's gonna go back to fighting people like Julian Erosa and he's gonna finish them. So
Yeah,
yeah.
and then that's look, sometimes that's not the worst thing in the world. It's what like I always talk about the echelons of the sport. There's elite, there's great, there's good, there's everybody else after that. Being in that good to great category is a fine place for some of these guys to land. If Melky Costa ends up there and does exactly what you just said, everybody out there watching, just take your free money and be happy with that. I mean, not everybody's going to be a champion. That's just the way that the sport goes.
Unfortunately, yeah. I mean, and will the UFC, get their vitiligo champ? Not yet, is what I would say.
Yeah, that certainly does seem to be one of the major takeaways here. And I also don't think that England's getting a champ out of this either, which is unfortunate. I mean, what I wanted to say, at least to that note, is like, aside from potentially Tom, who we still need to see if he's ever coming back, where are the great English finishers right now? You know what I mean? Like, think about it, all of the English people that you can name off the top of your head. You can say Paddy, maybe to a minor extent, finishing Bobby Green with the triangle armbar, but going to decision with Jared Gordon, et cetera, going to decision in the fight where he got his ass kicked with Justin. Fucking Nathaniel Wood, fucking
Davy Grant.
David Grant. I was just going to say exactly. So, I mean, like, Melissa Mullins, I mean, like, where are the English finishers? Guys, we rock with you, England. Send over your greatest finisher and let him be your next star, because right now I think you're kind of lacking, unfortunately.
Yeah, 100%. Mhm.
The last note that I had for it was I thought that Arnold Allen was getting pissed during the reading of the scorecards. I thought he was getting pissed that he didn't get 50-45s across the board, but he was actually getting pissed because he thought he lost the decision, which I said, he is really just an odd little man, that Arnold Allen. I mean, like, could you not have known that you were dominating that fight? It's strange.
To be fair, he had been feeling as if he got robbed in his last 3 fucking fights, so, it is what it is.
Yeah, fair enough with that. And also, it is very good that we know that he is trying to make a baby with his beautiful wife. Chase, aren't you glad that you know that fact?
I am very happy to hear that Arnold Allen is trying to make a baby with his beautiful wife.
I think it was very important that we all knew that. So thank you for saying it, Arnold Allen.
But is she
Yes.
able to bounce a quarter off of her butt like Grant Dawson's wife?
Yeah, who could? I mean, really, Grant Dawson's wife, has that, I think, reserved. So congratulations to both of them for being happily married men, I suppose.
100%.
Yeah, and that brings us to the end of this thing. That was UFC Fight Night, Allen versus Costa. Chase, after talking it all through, what are your final impressions of this one?
I was not the biggest fan of this card. I think the issues that I was having with Paramount Plus with optimizing my playback experience was a is part of the reason that I did not love this card as much. I want to give it a solid 6. I'll give it a 6.
And you sent a video to me earlier this evening of like your experience with that. Please post that as a short or something on your channel. I think people need to see exactly what you were going through to fully understand it. And I think that it, like, for the broader world, like, it needs to be known. Paramount needs to know that the playback experience during live streams is terrible, and then the rewatch experience is equally terrible in certain ways. I mean, you got audio issues on that, cutting fighters' post-fight interviews off, not getting any of the surrounding stuff. Even if you want to chop the fights up, you could at least chop them up effectively. I mean, like, there's so many issues at this stage. We're almost halfway through this year, halfway through the first year of this Paramount deal, still dealing with the same horse shit that seems to be the experience that we're getting. So definitely put that out and amplify it to the masses, because they need to realize we are not satisfied with our Paramount viewing experience. It certainly, compared to ESPN, who I also hated, this is night and day. I mean, I would way rather have what we had on ESPN.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on that one, but I will certainly see about posting that video for the masses to see, of course.
Yes, and if he does, make sure you guys like and repost it and do all that good stuff. My ultimate assessment of this card, I actually thought that this over delivered on what it was on paper. Personally, I thought that there were some really good performances on here from certain people, a couple of pretty decent scraps overall. I mean, the Barreth versus Goulet fight set this thing off as to a good tone. Obviously, some dips. We always talk about the up and downs of this thing. I feel like I have the same notes generally for the assessments of some of these cards, but this one really does kind of sit within that world of, like, I got to see Doo Ho Choi get a knockout. I'm very happy about that. I really wish that the main event had delivered better, because I feel like if the main event was like a spectacular knockout, or knockdown drag out fight, like a really competitive one, this could have been a great card. But I think I'd go a little bit higher. I'd go maybe like a 7.5 is where I put this.
All right, I like it. I'll take it.
All right, and that is UFC Fight Night, Allen versus Costa. Then, of course, guys, since we do not have fights coming up this weekend, we got a week off, so we do not have predictions for you. I will go through and show you a little bit of a preview of the upcoming card. This, of course, is UFC Macau, so be ready for early start time to this thing. This is 4 a.m. Eastern Standard Time if you want to watch the prelims of this thing. But your main event of the evening for this is Song Yadong versus Davison Figueiredo. Moving on down the line in the co-main is Zhang Minyang versus Alonzo Menefield. Sergey Pavlovich versus Taliesin Teixeira. Kai Asakura is fighting Cameron Smotherman. See if he can actually, I know, right? We'll see if he can actually make it to the fight this time. Muslim Salikov is fighting Jake Matthews. Not a lot of Japanese representation. Well, this is China, excuse me. Not a lot of Chinese representation so far, but a couple. We have Alex Perez versus Sumidarji. There's a Chinese person. Then we get down into the prelims here. Yi Sak Lee versus Luis Felipe Diaz. Ding Meng versus Jose Henrique.
That dude's 34-9. Holy shit.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about this on the upcoming episode when we do our predictions. These Chinese fighters with these records, we've talked about it before, but it will definitely be very apparent when we talk about it on the upcoming episode. These records are crazy. I mean, Ding Meng, 34-9, Ariki Lang, 26-12. He's one that we've seen multiple times at this point and are familiar with, but a couple of these other ones, crazy records over here. Moving on down the card still even further, Ray Saruya versus Jesus Aguilar. Angela Hill is fighting Jingnan Zhang.
That's not Zhao Shannon, by the way. It kind of looks like it if you just squint a little bit, but no, this is some other one.
Certainly getting more Chinese and Asian representation as we go farther down, so this is good at least. Zhu Kangji is fighting Ramon Tavares, Florida man. And starting this card off, the Thai Luma Lukbunmi is fighting Jacqueline Amarim. What you looking up there, Chase?
Zhu Kangji, that's so familiar. We know him from something. That name is something.
Well, we're gonna. I mean, if you if you have it right now, then fine. If you don't, then we will find out everything. Because this is going to be a research heavy card, because a lot of these fighters are regional. A lot, some of these I would suspect are road to the UFC guys. Others might just be coming in fresh. A lot of research is going to be going into our next episode, so you definitely want to tune in to get all of the inside information on these fighters that we are able to pull together. So both myself and Chase will be doing a good amount of backstory, finding out here, getting all of the pertinent details for you on the next episode of this very show. So be here next Monday for our predictions for UFC Fight Night, Song versus Figueiredo, aka UFC Macau.
Hell yeah. No, this is going to be a good one. I'm very excited for next, or for the week after next.
Yes, absolutely. So until then, everybody, of course, you can find me at youtube.com/@Yama Show. More content always coming around. We got watch alongs, maybe some additional streams with myself and Chase coming up. You know, we've got MMA on film coming back at some point soon. We're talking about our next episode of that. Always new stuff coming out on youtube.com/@Yama Show. And Chase, I know you can tell them where they can find you and that short you're going to be putting out.
Yes, they can find me on youtube.com/@CPSmalls. And of course, I will be putting out some good content here soon for you guys. So just keep a tab.
If you haven't seen Chase doing his trading card unboxing streams, people, let me tell you, I am the biggest fan of them. I want to see more people in those chats. It is a great time. You can also find me on Instagram and on Twitter and on Facebook at Yamashow, YAMMASHOW. Same at yamashow.com, where you can get merchandise for both Yama and last week's fights. Go ahead and get yourself something nice. Get something for your girl, man. She's lacking. She needs some Yama merch.
Hell yeah.
Till then, you know, that is going to do it for this one. Appreciate all you guys hanging out with us for this one, guys. Appreciate everything in the chat. Always, you guys are amazing. Thank you as always for your support. We will catch you in the next one. Until then, have a great rest of your night, a great rest of your week. And as always, fight on.